Hello, everybody. My name is Lat Mackey, and this is Games Done Classic. Welcome, everybody. This is where we look back at legendary GDQ moments with the legends that made them happen. Thank you so much for being here. If you're watching this on YouTube and would like to support our live content, please consider checking out our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/GDQ. And if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe to any Twitch channel of your choice every month for free. Please consider using your Prime Gaming account to subscribe to the GDQ Twitch channel. It really does help make all of these shows that we have here on the GDQ Hotfix possible. Your subs, your gift subs, Amazon Prime subs, bits cheered on the GDQ channel help support our weekly content. Thank you for supporting our shows. Honestly, it means the world to us because that's what makes these things happen. If you missed any of our runs from the AGDQ 2021 online marathon, or want to watch any of the previous Hotfix shows, you can go to youtube.com/gamesdonequick and check out our archive of all of the shows. They're all on there. Tune in tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Monday, for the Community Spotlight for the Cartoon Show Edition. We'll be showing off speedruns of Powerpuff Girls, Sailor Moon, and Mickey Mouse. Should be a lot of fun. Hey, if you're around on a Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, it's a great show to watch. Now, for today, this is Games Done Classic. And what exactly is this? Well, we look back at all of these great moments we have now. Over 10 years, we have over a decade of history at Games Done Quick. And this show is a look back with the people that made them happen. Bring you behind the scenes. What's it like to be on the couch? What's it like? How do we get these runs to you folks out there? And if there's one thing that has now become a staple of Games Done Quick, it's been the Kaizo Mario games you see. These are these fan-made games that you see that are just wildly challenging, incredibly tough to beat, and we are joined by a bunch of great people today to walk back through all of these runs that have happened. We're not going to get to all of them. There's just too many. This might be part one of like 4. Who knows at this point? But today's guests are going to be Dram 55, Mitch Flower Power, Pangea Panga, and Grand Pooh Bear. And for our first run, I'd first like to welcome a person who seems like they've been around the community for longer than the community existed. Is going to be Dram 55 with his AGDQ 2015 run of Kaizo Mario World. Dram, how you doing? Thanks for being here.
I'm doing well. Hey, thanks for having me here. This is pretty great.
I guess first, when's the last time you actually played Kaizo Mario World?
I think I was feeling a bit nostalgic a couple of years ago, and I played like half a level and I was like, I can't do this. And I just put the controller down and that was that.
Nice. So let's first, for somebody who's never seen a Kaizo game or a fan-made game, what exactly is Kaizo Mario World and what kind of makes it unique, different than a vanilla Super Mario World game?
Yeah, so I had to like dust off, we were talking earlier, I had to dust off my notes and kind of recall all this. But the first time I had seen this was a video in college where at the time I didn't even realize it was a task playing through the hack, but it was, which is a tool-assisted speedrun. This guy, Takamoto, put a video up on YouTube. What was it called? Making my friend play through my difficult hack, all the way back in 2007. And that's when I first saw it. And yeah, it's just a very, very hard version of a otherwise vanilla game. Yeah.
It's quite unique. And so what we're going to do, if you've never seen the show, I'm going to play the video. We're going to start watching the run, and we're just going to chat about all the things that led up to it, what's happening. As you can imagine, there have been multiple iterations of the speed run and up to this point, but this was way back in 2015. So I'm going to start playing the video. And Dram, first of all, tell us what was the Kaizo community or the fan-made community like at this point? I mean, were there a lot of different fan-made games, or were people speedrunning? What was it like back in 2015?
So there's a really strong ROM hack scene, but I don't really recall if there was much of a Kaizo scene yet. There was pit hacks, but they were all meant to be played through tasks, not actual, in a real-time setting, at least not a speedrun setting. And the first time I actually saw someone for real do it was in 2012 or late 2012. I saw Jeff W356 just playing through Kaizo with splits on the left side of his screen, and I was like, well, is this real? And sure enough, it was. So that was kind of he was the first person I ever saw speedrun a Kaizo hack for real. So he was for sure like my inspiration. And I guess if there was a scene at the time, it was just Jeff W. alone by himself, and then I joined.
How long had you been speedrunning up to this point? Because it's first of all just amazing to get through this game, but then secondly to actually consider speedrunning it. What was your speedrunning experience up to this point?
Yeah, I played just normal Super Mario World for, I guess I started in 2011 when Speedruns Live was in its inception. And yeah, we also, so I did that for a couple of years. And then in 2012, we had a online marathon called Number SMW. And at that marathon, me and my buddy Minion actually decided to speedrun the first 2 levels of this ROM hack. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I forgot what the question was.
No, I'm just curious, how long had you been speedrunning like up to this point? Because, you know, thinking back, now we know Games Done Quick, we reach a lot of people and all these kind of things, but back in 2015, I'm not sure like how many people were speedrunning back then, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't much of a scene. I mean, I started in 2011, so I guess it would have been like 3 or 4 years. And I think I had to look it up yesterday. Yeah, in like early 2014 is when I started speedrunning Kaizo. So I guess I was like two or 3 years in.
Had you done any speedruns on the GDQ stage to this point?
Yes.
Okay.
If this was 2015, I think my first year was 2013. I did any percent and 96 exit. And 2014, I had done low percent and no cape, no star race with Link Dead.
Low percent, one of my favorite categories. Just it's kind of a wild category.
Yeah.
So what made you think that you could possibly do this on the GDQ stage? Because this game is so Kaizo games in general, like they're really challenging, and just to finish one seems like a huge accomplishment. So what gave you the idea to actually see, hey, maybe I should submit this, maybe I should give this a try?
Yeah. So I had a decent amount of confidence going in because it's not very luck based. For this game in particular, it's more just input based. So how I approached it is, and actually I dug up, because I knew I had it. I dug up an old Twitter message because I think Pooh Bear was asking me. This was in 2016. So it was pretty cool. I wrote up like, hey man, this is what I did, and like hope it helps out for you. You know, when he had run his game 2 years later. So yeah, I just practiced a lot. There wasn't much luck, so it was just a lot of practice and doing no reset runs. And after a month of doing no reset runs, everything was pretty much second nature at that point. It was all muscle memory. So I was feeling confident, you know.
You mentioned a month of reason. I mean, are you playing the game every day? Because I'm always curious about like the prep that went into what we see here on stage. Because the run goes, for the most, I mean, there's deaths in it, just like almost any other Kaizo game we've seen on the stage. But it you know, you're moving through the game pretty quick.
My honest answer is I don't remember. I probably did, knowing me. I was probably practicing every day, and then toward the end, I mean, so I picked up the game in 2014, so it was on and off. But I think once November hit, I think I was playing it every day, just doing no reset speedruns, and then trying to focus a little bit on commentary, although I didn't really get around to doing that. So luckily, Carl and Atari were there to do some commentary, because I didn't really say much at the time.
I'm glad you bring that up, because there was already a fair amount of questions in the chat as we're watching about who's on your couch and what's it like to see yourself 2015 version of you.
It's weird. Look at I was just saying before, right? Like how young we all look. I definitely felt a bit old when some of the stuff I was looking up was literally almost 10 years ago, you know, in terms of when I started speedrunning and the Number SMW marathon. But yeah, it's crazy looking at the couch and seeing everyone.
Who is there on your couch?
Yeah, it's Atari, Carl, and Lambie over on, I guess, my left from our perspective, his right.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
One of the things so I started watching GDQs live around 14, 15, and obviously the room has grown. During that time, it looks pretty intimate. Did it feel that way when you're doing your run as well?
Yeah, this year was actually it might have been the last time they had done it like this, but they had the audience set up on the other side of the room, so you couldn't, and you were in this intimate setup. So you still kind of got the power of the crowd. I could hear it, but Yeah, it was nice. It was almost like you were just kind of chilling with your friends, you know, in the living room, playing through the game. I did like that, although, uh, I mean, when you're up there, it's always intimate, no matter, I mean, you don't see what's behind you, right? Yeah.
And even back then, I mean, did they have the lights up and everything like that? So it's, I don't know, did they have that going in 2015?
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, again, I don't remember, but I see shadows in the back. So I see, yeah, I think it's Rib Killa back there casting a nice, big, powerful shadow on the wall. So yeah, no, I think they had lights.
So just a little bit of your history. What was the first year that you attended or went to a GDQ event?
So I almost went to 2012, but I didn't. I had been in the community, I guess, speedrun community for maybe a year, give or take. But instead, I guess all of us just watched it on whatever it would have been, like Skype or Mumble. Just followed my buds. We just watched it, and I definitely regretted not going. So my first year was 2013. It was the one after that.
Very cool. And did you ever, I can't remember if you had a run in 13 or not. Apologies.
Yeah, 96 exit and any percent Super Mario World.
It's really cool and really fun to see. The Kaizo Mario World games are somewhat infamous nowadays for their challenge and how they've, you know, inspire the next generation we see of fan-made games and Kaizo games. Have you played through all of the Kaizo Mario Worlds games at this point? And you know, what are some of your thoughts on them as far as their challenge and their difficulty?
Yeah, no, I've only played through 1 and 2, and I've played through bits and pieces of a couple of the others. You know, from other level makers. But in terms of the Kaizo series, no, I've only played through 1 and 2. 3 just seemed like it was a bit too much. I never got around to it.
It's they just present this, at least as a viewer, because to be honest with you, I've never attempted them myself. They just look like they're too challenging. But they, even watching this on stream, it's kind of wild to see Mario World that we know and love be put in such a different, all these different situations. And this is like, I don't know how about everyone else feels, but this seems like the first time we had ever seen a lot of this stuff. Because, you know, most of my speedrunning watching was GDQs back then. You know, not everyone was streaming their stuff and things like that. So this was kind of the first chance a lot of us got to see this. I think that's why it kind of resonates with a lot of us. I don't know if people have ever come up to you and asked you about it or talked about it, but it seems like this was an introduction for a lot of us to this type of game.
Yeah, it certainly seemed like it. And at the time, I mean, I don't think it's a concern anymore, but at the time, I didn't even know if it would get into AGDQ because I didn't even know if a hack would be accepted or a fan named Gabe would be accepted. I didn't know if that would be some issue, you know, but clearly it wasn't. I'm glad it wasn't. And it spawned off a whole lot of great runs since then. So I'm really happy about that.
What was the, you know, I'm always curious too, like, what was the submission process like? Mike Oyama was on the first episode of the show, and he was saying, you know, basically we just, you know, DM some people and see who wanted to do a run. So I'm wondering, by 2015, was like there a formal process to get the game in and everything?
Yeah, there was a formal process by this time. I think even every year that I had been around, so starting 2013, everything was formal. It may have been done through Google Docs, maybe.
Got it.
But everything was formalized. I didn't have any inside messages from Uyama. No, none of that.
The run's really getting interesting. This is actually one of my favorite levels. What's going on as we're watching this here? This is we're seeing quite a bit going on.
Yeah, this one's great. It's an automatic screen scroll that just constantly speeds up. There, I got it there. And oh no. Yeah, that one's really tough. Although the time jumps are pretty easy, but the hard part is there's one platform in there where it's just purely luck-based, whether or not you actually jump, just based on the way Mario's speed oscillation works. It just wouldn't, the jump input wouldn't trigger in certain scenarios. So I actually didn't die there, luckily in the marathon because of that. I died because I didn't hit the jump button, but yeah.
I remember first watching this and didn't even know that Mario World was capable of scrolling that fast. And I guess that's just one of the many things that people who have played with the game and the editor and all that kind of stuff have kind of discovered and developed, because I know even some of this isn't even like developed or baked into the vanilla editor. So
yeah, this guy, he clearly did some things, and you'll see later on here with the Big Boo fight, it's a modified version, and later on with the boss fight. Wow, yeah, I've totally forgot about this room, like even existing. Yeah, very difficult for sure.
When you were grinding the games in Super Mario World and Kaizo Mario and all these different types of games, did you do any of tasking on your own, or like how did you discover some of the strats or learn how to play games at this level?
A lot of free time. Yeah, yeah, it's just a lot of free time, and again, I probably would have never thought to do it myself if Jeff W. If I hadn't seen him do it, I just wouldn't have ever thought it was possible. So yeah, it's pretty much those two things: inspiration and time, and a little bit of drive. Yeah, led to this.
Have you returned to the game since? Do you ever revisit any of your speed runs or anything like this?
You mean in terms of watching them or like
playing? Have you played the game? Like, have you ever given it another run?
No. This run. Well, actually, it was practicing for this GDQ. I had a pretty good run of this game that I'm proud of. I would never have any reason to go back to beat it. And actually, Calco, he's a beast. He beat it a few years back, and yeah. And I'm even so, I'm still really proud of the run I did for this game. So if I was to ever go back to anything, I guess it would be Kaizo 2, where, to be honest, there's probably much better Kaizo games out there now that I should check out. So yeah, I haven't really gone back too much since 2016, I guess.
You mentioned it, and we were talking about it a little bit before the stream, but the practice room. And nowadays, if you attend a GDQ, especially the one that was in Florida, our last in-person event, I mean, the practice room was the size of a ball. I mean, it was huge. There were TVs, chairs, tables. There's just tons of stuff going on with gaming and people playing games all the time. What was the practice room like back in 2015?
Yeah, it was pretty small. It was pretty intimate. It wasn't very hard at all to just kind of set up in a corner and be alone. There's not a lot of people. Although when I went, it was a little different. I wanted to play in front of people because I had been, like when you speed run, yeah, you're streaming, but you're in your house all by yourself. So I kind of wanted other people just over my shoulder for that extra, I don't know. It's just different, so that when I was to do the live run, it wasn't the first time playing in front of another human,
Yeah, no, totally. Did it help? I mean, because that's something you can't replicate, playing in front of thousands of people or, hundreds of thousands sometimes on the stream. So I wondered if it helped.
Yeah, I think it did. To be honest, yeah, once, I don't really remember being too nervous for this, although I will admit the end of this run, the run was like okay, it was a little rocky, but the end of it was, I died a lot on the second to last level. But I don't really remember feeling nervous. It was just like, well, I don't know what it was. Yeah.
I've heard that quite often that, once you get going, it just feels like, once again, you're playing a video game, like you normally would be. But it takes sometimes, it takes a little bit to get into it and get into what what do you, okay, I got to ask, what are we looking at here? Like, you're totally clipped into a wall right now.
Yeah, so this is the only level where I'm pretty sure the creator of this hack, like, this is clearly unintended, right? and I think this is actually the only level that I was able to take an unintended route. Everything else, like, I think he prevents you from clipping over the level in 2 after this, and he puts a lot of safeties in there so you can't do any unintended skips. But that was the only one. I mean, that's pretty standard Mario World stuff there, swimming under a level, that's like, everyone knows what they're getting into with Mario World. And do I do the skip here? Oh no, I messed it up. Oh, I died. Yeah.
Another death.
Yeah, whoops. Yeah.
Do you play any of the Kaizo games or the fan-made games nowadays?
I'd like to play more, and it's a constantly growing list. It's very impressive. And what's even more impressive is the whole scene and community that's grown around it. I know some of the others on this podcast can speak later much better about it, but no. But I know I have a good list of games to get into. That's for sure.
Well, I think you read my mind for the next question. As somebody who's now, basically been around the community for a decade, did you have any idea that it would grow into what we see now with Mario? Mario Maker, all of the fan-made games. There's this wonderful, large Mario community nowadays.
No, not at all. And it's worth pointing out. So this run is January 2015. Mario Maker came out this year, but in September. So this was kind of, I guess, before that, and between Mario Maker and then the really, really great ROM hack scene. Yeah, it's pretty crazy what it's turned into now. I probably would have never expected it, but I don't know. I never really thought like that. I was more just, hey, I'm having fun. I want to play this game. So I wasn't thinking like, what's this community going to grow into? I just don't think that way, I guess.
Well, that's a good question, a good point, and a good question. Like, what were some of? I mean, did you grow up playing Mario World, or what were some of the first Mario experiences you had, and to see it? Where did you start?
Yeah, I guess just sitting in my living room as a kid, playing through it, and I think. Oh, I'm just sorry. I'm looking at this is the level that's kind of painful. I think I spent a bit of time on it here in this run, but. Yeah, I played through it a bunch as a kid. I don't really have any memories of that. I don't have a good memory, so
that's asking about stuff from 10 years ago. No, I was kidding.
But yeah, no. But what did happen is after I graduated college, I think I had like a free, I don't know, bit of time between work or summer break or whatever, and I had a free 2 weeks. And this might have been 2009, 2010, and I played through Mario World like the whole game, and it was just like such a great time. And it brought back a lot of great memories. And I was like, man, that was so much fun. I couldn't shut up about it, about how much fun I had had. And my friends at the time were just like, yeah, cool, whatever, we don't, tell someone else. But yeah, and then I guess it was like a year after that I had stumbled across Giano speedrunning Mario 64, and then I realized speedrunning was a thing. So then I was like, I guess I'll just play Mario World because it's easier than Mario 64. It's only 2D, and I love the game. So that was kind of how it started, my Mario World stuff. Yeah.
It keeps happening, so we do got to point it out. You keep bumping into what is now, we refer to as Kaizo blocks. What exactly are Kaizo blocks, and are they fun, or do you laugh at them, or are they things that make you want to throw the controller through the window?
So it depends. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was this one in particular. It was really getting me. So a Kaizo block generally it's not used. Actually, probably absolutely it's not used this way in vanilla Super Mario World. Mm-hmm. Usually it's used as just a way to get a free coin, maybe to hint the player can get up into an unintended area. But how it's used here is you could put invisible blocks, what are known as Kaizo blocks, in areas where the player is most likely to run and jump, which will, then they would die after hitting the block. But the thing about it here is I know where all of them are during this run. I know where all of them are, but that one in particular is so difficult because you have to hit it. If you notice, it almost looks like it's impossible. Right. See, like that one has a Kaizo block under the on-off switch, so you have to hit it at, I guess, less than 45-degree angle. Otherwise, if you're too low, your head would hit the block and trigger the Kaizo block. So he used that mechanic here in this level, and it we got a good display of it.
You pretty much hit them all at this level, but sorry, dude. But I was, it's one of those things where I'm curious if the developer of this game, or if anybody at the time that was developing these things, knew how good they would be on stream or watching them on a video, because they look like the most frustrating thing ever for the speedrunner. But as like an audience member, still to this day, I still laugh when people, find them and die in the worst way possible as they're just about to beat the level. They're like perfect for stream.
Yeah. Maybe because, like I was saying before, and this is what I had to look up. I didn't remember this, but the hack was made in late 2007, and then the title of the video in 2008 was "Making My Friend Play Through My Own Mario World Hack."
Yeah,
and there wasn't even any commentary. Just alone. I guess there's kind of like this weird meta. It's a struggle between someone figuring out the level and figuring out where all these Kaizo blocks are, and just learning and getting through all this difficult platforming. There's like a different experience there. I'm not sure if he knew like it would kick off, all this stuff, and maybe there was difficult ROM hacks before Kaizo, and I'm not aware. So maybe it was a thing before then, but Kaizo was my first exposure to it.
It's interesting to note like how playing through a level like this specifically is so, it seems like it's so in tune with how a speedrunner might approach speedrunning a game, where there's going to be a lot of death, there's going to be a lot of trial and error, but you're going to keep at it until you get it. And it's sometimes interesting to see, because that's not everyone enjoys playing a game like that, where you're going to die all the time and everything like that. Do you still enjoy these kind of experiences even to this day, after having played this game now for, you know, it's 5 or 6 years old at this point?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's similar to, I mean, I played some instruments growing up, and it's almost like a similar concept, just practice makes perfect. I also liked, like specifically with Kaizo, I did approach it in a very mechanical way, where I just made sure nothing killed, I don't remember what the percentage was, but no jump would kill 50% of my runs. I'd at least get it with a higher percentage than that. And if I couldn't, I would find an easier strategy. And I kind of broke it down bit by bit to make it easy. That goes back to what you were saying earlier, where, you know, how'd you feel submitting this? Isn't it difficult? And the answer is kind of, yeah, but not really after you have almost a year of practice at this point. I had it pretty much down. Whereas, you know, some games you see at AGDQ, there's some big luck factor. So, you know, some people submit games with like crazy luck, and there's a 10% chance that I live here. You know, like this game didn't have any of that, thankfully, which appeals to me more.
I'm really glad that you mentioned, or it's really interesting that you mentioned the musician thing. So many speedrunners actually have some form of music in their background, playing an instrument or composing or things like that. And I'm glad you related to that, because you're absolutely right that I was a musician. I still teach music to this day, actually. And that repetition, that practice to get something, and then once you get it, continuing to do it once you've gotten it, is like such a foundational element of playing a musical instrument well and things like that. And it's interesting that you brought that approach over to gaming. It's very similar.
Yep. Yeah. No, I definitely thought so, and it paid off here. And yeah, I'm looking at so this was again in the infancy of ROM hacks. So I think what the twist that Takamoto put on this boss fight was he just made it invisible, which he actually unintentionally probably made it quicker. And I had completely forgotten about this, but again, like I said, I did some note taking yesterday, and I double checked. And this first phase of the boss fight, if you notice, I only hit Bowser once. And I guess you can't see him, but just take my word for it that he flew away, and then now the flames are going to come down. And yeah, that saves, I don't even remember anymore, probably like 20 seconds or so. But in some weird way, maybe for a casual player, this boss fight would be very difficult. But for a speedrunner who had done it a million times, you know, it wasn't, this was like the easiest part.
It's probably why we were able to see so many speedruns, not so many, but we're able to see speedruns blindfolded, because you practice the repetition. You kind of know some games have audio cues and stuff like that I don't think this does. But how were you able to cue off in the boss fight like this?
It was probably all sounds.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking now. Yeah, it was probably mostly sound based, and you could still see the Mecha Koopas, which are, you know, and you know which way Bowser's gonna move. I mean, he only goes left to right, so it's not very difficult at all. But I think the final cycle, the one that's coming up here, I probably used the sound cue to hit him immediately.
It's great to see this boss fight compared to what we're going to see a little bit later in the show with Grand Poo World 2, because the evolution, first of all, of just Kaizo and fan-made games to begin with, but then secondly, what we've done with boss fights and what the community has done with boss fights is it has come a long way since just making it invisible.
Yeah,
which seems really challenging even to this day, especially if it's your first time through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's really impressive where the community's taken it. With ROM hacking, specifically Kaizo ROM hacking. And I mean, it's only going to get harder, right? And especially as time moves on, everyone's skills are just getting better, which, by the way, mine are just withering away. But everyone's skills are getting better. It's what do you do next? You just make a harder game. So, yeah, and I'm sure, you know, the rest of the guys on this call can speak to that better. But, yeah, it is very impressive.
Well, this is really rad, and it's really awesome for sharing some of these moments. I know for a lot of us, this is some of the things that got us into Mario World and all of the fan made games that are going to come after this. So it was I don't want to say pivotal, but this really inspired a lot of us to really go try these and play these and maybe mess around with it. And when Mario Maker comes out in just a few months, you mentioned after this, it kind of changes the whole game again, but. This was one of the things that I think got a lot of us into it. So thanks for taking a minute to share some of these stories and everything. It's pretty wild looking back at it now. Six years later, 6 years now this run happened.
I know, and it looks like 6 years ago when you look at everyone's faces. Yeah, pretty nuts.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll get Dram back in just a little bit. We're now gonna change gears a little bit here, and we're gonna move on to next year, which was AGDQ 2016, and this is the second appearance ever of a fan-made or Kaizo game, and this is going to be Kaizo Mario Brothers 3. I'd like to now welcome Mitch Flower Power and Grand Pooh Bear. Thank you both for being here. How you guys doing? Good. Pooh, are you with us? Making sure everyone's unmuted and stuff.
I should be here. Yeah, I'm here. I believe I'm here.
Just me and you, bud.
Okay, just me and you. Perfect. Okay.
Wait,
no,
no, oh, wait,
probably
am
for
I
a
not?
few minutes, I think.
Oh, wait, I didn't realize I had to unmute in Discord too. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
What up?
We got it.
I got you guys.
Okay,
Hi,
so
Pooh.
how you doing, Pooh?
How's it going?
It is going well. I think for those of you that are just joining us on Twitch, we are live. So Mitch was just on a world record pace, nothing new.
Yeah, that's what we were all doing before this. All of us were sitting in the green room watching Mitch, almost world record.
Almost.
Yeah.
So close. Just stupid hands.
The hands.
Okay. Well, okay, Mitch. So let's start with you first because you're the runner of this one. And had you done any runs at GDQ? But tell us a little bit about your history before this GDQ.
Yeah, I think this was my second one. I think I only did Kaizo Mario Bros 3 at this GDQ. This was 2016, and I did. Or no, this one is 2016, right? I think.
Yeah.
I don't think I did anything in 2015, but 2014 was the co-op run with Karua 100%. And that was my other Mario 3 one. Actually, 2015 was when we did Mario Maker, wasn't it? No, because Mario Maker came out in September, right?
No, because you did this one, then Mario Maker, then the blind race, and then we had the Kaizo race right after it. So you were on like for like 3 hours.
That was this one.
GDQ.
That was this. Okay. Yeah, 2015.
That was this year.
Yeah, I wasn't doing SGDQs at this time. I was only able to do HGDQs. So yeah, that was intense. This is definitely first Kaizo too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I kind of want to go with this, Mitch, because at this point, you've obviously grinded Mario 3 for years now at this point. I mean, this is 2016. You've been playing the game, I don't know how long. When did you discover the Kaizo Mario 3, and how did you find this game?
So I didn't actually find it. The game, oddly enough, was made for me. The person who made this hack had stumbled across Kaizo, a little bit of Mario Maker stuff, and then a little bit of Super Mario World Kaizo, and he had noticed that Mario 3 had no Kaizo. The only thing Mario 3 had was those extremely unfair pixel frame perfect jump hacks. I think it was like something called Challenge Hack 10 that came out in like 2004 or something, right? And it's just like completely unfair stuff. So this was actually the first Mario 3 Kaizo hack that came out, and it was made by someone named Obidus1, who was a part of my community, and he kept updating me on the making. And then when he released it, nobody was able to play it except for me for the first day, I think. He let me play it and show everyone, and then he released it. So yeah, it was really cool.
So did you do any of the play testing, or had you, as this game is being developed, were you at all involved in that, or you literally got a game that was ready to go? Yeah,
he wanted it so that I was like the first player, so I didn't do any. I don't even think he had anyone test it, to be honest. He was very alone in the community. There wasn't really a Kaizo community. Mario 3 never had anything like that with Super Mario World, and to be honest, it barely still kind of has it in compared to Super Mario World. So yeah, he did everything all on his own, everything.
It's so interesting because, first of all, it looks incredibly challenging. This looks like one of the hardest Mario 3 games I've ever seen in my life. Is it that way to play through it, especially for somebody at your level?
Yeah, this game it's definitely really hard, and Mario 3 lacks certain things in Super Mario World that make it easier on the player's eyes and like I guess gaming intuition is that like with the way the screen scrolls and the options you have, there's a lot of like, oh, so I can't jump there. Oh, so I can't move there, right? You really have to go through that with Mario 3. Like you don't know what's up there, right? Even in this jump right here, like I don't know what's going on there. So the first time playing, you have no clue what to do, and it's really hard that way.
Had you done any attempts where, I guess, were there any point where you beat this game deathless or anything like that, or were there always going to be deaths involved in getting through this game?
Nope. Nope. I've always died. No. Hold on. I've done it without. No. I've always died at least once. Now I think about it. I have not got. I don't even know. Has there ever been a Kaizo hack deathless? Come on.
I mean, there's been like the quickie worlds and kind of like the ones I want to say like are. I mean, not any
like
disrespect
these.
to not any disrespect to those hacks by any means, but the ones that are like designed to be more easier intro hacks, like those have definitely had ones, but none of like I mean, I'd say like, from like Kaizo 1, I guess Kaizo 1, Kaizo 1 is probably the hardest hack that's had a deathless run, and hard is such a subjective thing,
right.
But yeah, I would say Kaizo 1 is the one, and that's had a few now, or maybe. Did Calco do Kaizo 2 at that? I can't remember if he's done Kaizo 2.
I'm not sure.
Deathless.
Yeah.
He might have. Calco's incredible. So
yeah, he's pretty.
he's so good.
Pooh, doing commentary, had you ever played through the game, or is this something where you were just picking up on watching Mitch play and things like that?
No, at this point I hadn't played through the game. And this is the very first commentary I'd ever done. So I was just kind of I just kind of asked Mitch how he wanted it done, and we played in the practice room. Like I had watched him play it a million times on stream by this point, but we just hung out in the practice room, and I just kind of asked him how he wanted things to be said and whatnot, and yeah, that was it. It was kind of interesting because Mitch we couldn't hear each other. So like when me and Mitch are talking, we couldn't hear each other during this run. Mitch was full concentration. Yeah.
Oh man,
I was really nervous for this one.
Yeah,
and oddly enough, I think Pooh Bear was the only one who could have provided any kind of Mario 3 commentary at that GDQ. There might have been one or two other people, but they could have said no. And it just goes to show,
he was
like,
stuck with me.
Like how much smaller the Mario 3 community comes in terms of Super Mario World. I mean, you see Dram's run, which was a year earlier. He's got a full couch. I mean, everyone's there, and it's not that Mario 3 doesn't have that. It's just it's really hard for a lot of people to step up with some of the Mario 3 stuff. So the couches are pretty hard with Mario 3, but it's not anymore though.
Yeah, and at this point, I was still I would even say a scrub Mario 3 runner. So I mean, Mitch was throwing me a bone on just even having me up there. So
Heck yeah.
yeah.
Well, this game does a lot of interesting things with just vanilla Mario 3 mechanics, and we're seeing one of it right now. Mitch, walk us through or Pooh, walk us through some of the things that this game does differently than we might see in the regular vanilla Mario 3 game.
Yeah, you take that away.
Oh, with like the Goomba shoot, that's like one of the most unknown things in Mario 3, that the Goomba shoe has a double jump. So if you bounce off a ledge, you can jump in midair and use the Goomba shoe. And it always surprises people. They always think it's like cheating, or it's like something weird, or like, oh, is this custom? And there was no custom things in this hack at the time. So he kind of does the things that you don't see much in Mario 3 and then has fun with them. So there's like a frog suit level in this, there's a hammer suit level, Tanuki suit, and then the Goomba shoe, right? So yeah, he really goes off. And that's like always been the tradition for Mario 3, because again, Mario 3 doesn't have as many things as Super Mario World.
You mentioned earlier that you were really nervous leading up to this run. Why the nerves? Like, what was it about this game that?
I'm a nervous Nelly. I get nervous for everything every GDQ run, everything that I do, I always get nervous. But it is very hard, and it was interesting that you asked Dram about what he had planned, and he mentioned that Pooh Bear had asked him. I had asked Dram before this run, what did he have planned for the Death Spiral? Because that's the scariest thing. You get a Death Spiral, and you're worried that your run's going to take 3 hours, and that you might have to I can't beat it, guys. Step off stage. That's one of the scariest things to worry about. So, you're always nervous, and you just ask other people in the community how they deal with it, and they always have good information. We all work together. It's great.
The irony of that is like, or 2 runs after this, me and Mitch do a Kaizo race, Mario Maker race against Penga and Carl. And we did die out so many times that we had to, that we had to get off the stage. So that's that is the funny part of it. That's another thing that like Mitch is really incredible about this run, and I think that gets lost sometimes on GDQ runs, especially when guys do multiple games, is that he wasn't just practicing for this, he was practicing for a Mario Maker blind race and a Mario Maker Team Kaizo race, 2 at the same time. And at the time, the Mario Maker stuff was just like mind-blowingly harder than anything we had seen before, you know? So it was to prepare for all that and to put on a run like this was just like, it was so incredible to watch as someone who realized how much work had to be in it, you know what I mean? Like, it just is it's just commending how like great Mitch is at stepping up on these things. Yeah.
At some point, we're going to have to dig into some of the Mario Maker stuff, because that's one of those moments, too, seeing some of those hard levels. I don't know if others, but I'm actually even surprised, Mitch, to hear you say about the nerves and everything, because when we see your performances on stage or when you're on a world record run and everything, you seem like it's game time. And is that still part of like your thought process? Like, man, I gotta do well in this, because it seems like you're really locked in and tuned in when we get to see you at the highest level.
Well, for sure. It's the only thing I know how to do. I did it once and it worked, and I was like, all right, let's just keep doing this every time I get nervous, like on stage or from my run. But yeah, I always find that if I think more about things that I want to say to the crowd, I think less about what I need to do. And I have kind of like a traily mind, right? So if I'm more focused on the crowd and commentary and stuff like that, I most certainly will mess up. And if there's anyone who ends up digging through my GDQ runs, you'll actually notice that I don't talk much at all. And like even like 2 years ago at a GDQ run or something, I probably didn't talk much, or, you know, it's just something that has worked for me once. So I thought, you know, this is great. Let's just do this and I should be fine. But I still get nervous.
Totally. I mean, it is, you know, and now we noticed in 2016, we're in a much bigger room. I mean, this is probably, this must have been your first event then with a room this big. That must have been fun, I guess.
Oh yeah. This room compared to 2014 was way bigger. So in 2014, I have the backup of like a teammate, right? A co-op. You know, hey, if Karua messes up and I mess up, we go down together. It's great. You know, I'm fine with that. But then I get to this GDQ and I had no idea what I was getting into, and I see the room and I see the lights and I see the couch, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I got Kaizos, I got Mario Makers, and yeah, it just kind of, and a lot of my runs are also, you know, on Thursdays and Fridays, so I have the whole week to stress about it and stuff. So it gets at me. So I just get on stage and I'm like, that's it.
It's way worse having a late in the week run than having a run you can get done with early. Way worse, because you spend the whole week just stressing about it. You almost over practice because you're in the practice room so much, and then slowly all your friends stop being in the practice room because their runs get it done and they want to have fun, you know. And
they're out, you know, they're traveling or they're going to sightseeing because it's the first time there, and you miss out on a lot of that.
You're just sitting there stressing the whole time. Yeah.
And it's like, we don't have to stress out about it, but we take so much pride in making sure that we put on a good show and showing the world like how hard we work and how well we play. It's like, if I played half as well as I did in this run, I think it would be just as accepted. But to us, we're working really hard to show the world that this is like what we do, you know. So it's
you mentioned
I mean, not to say, but I think it also makes a difference too, because you know that these games are only going to be shown once, most likely. Yeah. Like you're never gonna get a chance. Like Mario 3, you know, you can run that multiple times, but you know, the fan-made games, like it's usually like a one and done situation. So
yeah, that's actually cool you say that, because after this run, like I put the game down, right? I might have done world record attempts maybe for the next month or two, but I haven't picked this game up, you know, ever since. And it's like, in order to do a GDQ run, I'd have to pick it up, practice, get comfortable, get good, submit it, didn't get in, try, you know what I mean? So you just put it down, right?
You mentioned that you had a couple other runs too with Mario Maker, which if for those that don't know, the physics are completely different, and the mechanics. I mean, the game plays very differently. How did you prep then, Mitch? Were you mostly focusing on this, or did you have to split your time? Like, because that seems like a lot of work to have 3 runs in one GDQ.
It was, and I made it so much harder on myself. So at home, I played on a flat screen LCD, and at GDQ right now, I'm playing on a CRT. But then we also played on flat screens with Mario Maker, so my brain was all over the place with like latency and like input delay and stuff. So it's just, I overstressed way too much. This is a nightmare.
We were seeing a bunch of cool stages then, and we're kind of talking through them. But if you go back and watch the run, there's some great commentary. So you do touch upon a lot of this. But you mentioned this earlier, Mitch. This is all vanilla. There's no custom code or anything like this. Is all vanilla actually built into the game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow,
No
because we just passed the froggy suit level, and you got hit, but you killed yourself. Like you had to keep the froggy suit during that. Why couldn't you have finished the stage without frog suit?
Okay, so there's a P-switch timer, and the frog suit swimming in water is very fast. So you need to keep the frog suit to make it past the coin gate while the P-switch is active. So if you lose the frog suit, you will never make it there in time, and you'll end up dying.
I'm sorry, you mentioned the name and I've totally forgotten already, but the developer of this ROM hack, were they a speedrunner at this time? Like, how did they create something that was this challenging? Did they have those speedrunning skills?
A little bit. They were a viewer of mine, a watcher, and they really liked Mario 3, and obviously disliked that Mario 3 didn't have a Kaizo. But yeah, so they watched, and he was in tune with Mario Maker and all that stuff. So just perfect timing, I guess. He just decided to do it. I was surprised too.
Was anybody else running this game after it came out, and you had done a run of it?
Yeah, there was a couple people. There's a couple awkward situations too that came from this game, in terms of like strategies and like how things go down. But no, there was definitely a couple people who tried doing some runs.
Yeah, after that I did some. Mitch actually, this is really funny, but after this, I don't know, probably like 6 months after this, Mitch helped me get the world record by hooking me up with some strats that he hadn't done in his run,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you gotta help.
Yeah, he actually helped me. And then, I mean, later on, he took it back because, he's better than me at Mario 3 and always will be. But it's just kind of really funny. I think that shows like how cool he is, though. It's like, he was like, yeah, you want to get it? Like, here you go. Here's like 3 free strats that'll save you like a minute over my time, So,
yeah. Pooh Bear and I actually did that same thing to go off of Mario 3, but we actually did that exact same thing with Dram World. Throwing
Mitch
strategies.
gave me strats. Mitch gave me strats that he didn't use and let me get better times. That is true. I think that's every run I've ever done. Actually, Mitch has given me free strats. So
basically, Mitch is
even when he doesn't play the game, even when he hasn't played the game,
I've heard both of you mention this, and I'll ask to both of you. I'll start with you, Mitch. What is it about Mario 3 that keeps you coming back? Because you've been running this game for over a decade now, and I'm curious why what makes it fun? Like, what keeps you on the grind?
Well, I mean, if it's vanilla Mario 3, the fact of when you get to a certain level, the RNG controls a lot, so you're essentially gambling your skill. And it's really hard to reach your full potential. And with someone like me who does like, playing video games as like a career and as a Twitch streamer and stuff like that, it really allows me to open up the doorway and work as long as I can to try and reach my max potential, and once you put so much time in, giving up is, you never want to give up, right? You always want to keep going until you succeed, right? So Mario 3 is perfect for that. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. But Mario 3 is perfect for that.
It's a great answer. And Pooh, I know you haven't run the game in a while, but you've mentioned how great of a. I mean, what made you keep playing the game?
Well, I mean, it was my first speed run ever, and a lot of what I kept playing is just I really loved the community. I really loved the people I met in the Mario 3 community. That was definitely one part. But it is, I mean, like Mitch said, it's definitely a game where you never feel like you reach your potential. And that I think is why the Mario 3 community stays kind of tight knit, and also stays kind of addicted to it. And while I always say I'm never gonna run Mario 3 again, I know that's a lie. and I know I will one day. I know I will one day. But it is just one of those. I don't know. It's just one of those games. It also is just like it's super smooth. It really is. It's super smooth.
The
It feels
physics,
really
yeah,
fun
I
to
didn't
run.
even mention that, right? It's just it feels right when in
It
terms of
does.
controlling Mario for some reason. It just feels right. Like Super Mario World's like a little floaty and a little slow, but Mario 3's just got like that tightness. And I'm pretty sure 97% of Mario 3 runners are not satisfied with their runs.
Yeah.
So that's what keeps it going, right? Like,
Yeah. Like I've never had a no hands PB in Warpless. Like still to this day, I've never had a no hands PB. I've had no hands before, but I've never PB'd with it. You know what I mean? So like just even that alone, like there's with no improvement over the last 2 years when I haven't run the game. I mean that's 35 seconds I could cut right there, and I have a pretty good time. Like I move up a lot of leaderboard spots.
Yeah, that's a free PB.
Exactly.
It's funny that
so
you
you
say
get
that.
addicted to that. Yeah, it's like pulling a slot machine, man. You get kind of addicted to it.
Yeah, you just get gamble your skill. You finally get that one run where you played really well, and then you get the chance at the hands.
Yeah.
And then you get pulled in by them, obviously.
Dram mentioned it in his run, but is there any of that RNG in this game, Mitch? Like, are you facing? Is there a hand situation? How does it work at this game?
So with Mario 3, with the way enemy spawns and stuff like that, there's like false RNG. So where I just died there, like the fire chomp was so high that because I have to kill him, he's in my way, but he's so high I bounced on him, I went to the spikes. But that's my fault for positioning. So it would trick a player into thinking that it's RNG when it's totally not. But other things in this game, no. That was just an example of like how you can get fooled into thinking things are RNG, but this run doesn't really have any RNG. Maybe the way Bowser attacks, right? He might shoot 2 fireballs instead of 3. Bowser's kind of really the only one, I think. And the boomerang bros, you never know when they're going to throw boomerangs, or the sledge bros, you never know when they're going to stomp. It's just stuff like that.
Before I had attempted my own speed runs, I watched this run, and I remember watching Kaizo Marvel and thinking like, man, how would they let this into a GDQ? It seems like really tough. How could these runners actually beat it and things like that? And then, Dram, I think, really broke it down really well, that there's not as much RNG as you would think. The challenge comes in the actual skill. And
yeah, not in these Kaizo games, right? Yeah.
Right. Is that the case for a lot of Kaizo type games? Is that really the way it kind of like where it's really about you getting better and your approach?
Yeah, because I think one of the biggest things is that when a Kaizo creator, who's not like obviously an official game creator, makes a hack that relies on certain RNG for you to progress or feel accomplished or feel good, will turn the player off very fast. And then the community gets wind of it and they're like, nah, that level sucks. There's no chance, and then it turns people off. So I think a lot of creators try and get rid of RNG stuff and make more skill-based tricks.
Yeah,
I'm guessing. That's a guess.
Yeah, I mean, while being, I guess, like unfair games in traditional level design sense, they're actually incredibly fair games for the most part. Minus maybe like bosses, which, in a lot of in my opinion, I think a lot more bosses should be RNG. Honestly.
Some of the new hacks prey on first impression unfairness. So the first time you get there, you have like maybe a 3% chance of like progressing. They prey on that, but other than that's the joke. That's the shtick behind some of the hacks. So,
well, I mean that's kind of interesting though, because I mean, Kaizo, we were talking about this just a little bit. Many times developers or people who are creating these games are making them for speedrunners they like and for people they know and things like that. So there is they know what they're giving to their friends or people that they admire and things like that. And I wonder if that actually plays into some of the development at times, right?
Sometimes.
I mean, like I'm sure Obidus included things that was like special that Mitch said he liked at some certain points. I mean, I know Barb included things that he knew I liked in Grand Poo World Series. Specifically because I said I liked them or different points or so I think that's definitely something you want to do. Like sometimes, I mean, I think like any game you're going to have an audience in mind, and when you're making a game for a community that's like 4 people, it's pretty easy to pinpoint what that audience might like or not.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I don't know if it was at this time, Mitch, because I can't remember, but I remember there is this meme category of frog percent, in Mario 3, and so including a frog suit, level like we'd never seen it.
Yep.
So I mean, yeah, that's pretty cool that it's based around and all around that. So.
Yeah, and also Mario 3 actually does not utilize the power-ups that they give you, but they take so much pride in them. It's so weird. they give these like hidden king messages and they put them throughout the game, but there's no. I mean, obviously you can't do level specifics because if you lose it, then you can't get it back. There's a weird glitch in Mario 3 with the big power-up blocks that when you get a power-up from a big block in one world and you die or beat the level, that never respawns, so you can't actually get it back. So I think that's what they had to struggle with, and they couldn't utilize the powers.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it's one of those things I've always wondered. Because I don't know, I'm in my late 30s, so I remember when this game came out, it was like the blockbuster game. It was one of the biggest games I remember ever seeing hyped or anything like that. And then when I heard about, like, I beat the game first without ever seeing a hammer suit. I didn't even know that was a thing. So like, it's kind of wild. It's kind of weird that you're not able to get, or you're not able to find those in perhaps a normal course of the game.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that's so special about Mario 3 is you can like be like a quote unquote master of Mario 3 and never know about like a white mushroom house, you know? And that's something that makes it so iconic, is all these things that exist in the game that you might never have actually seen, and you've played through the game a dozen times, you know? I don't know, it makes it special.
I know we've skipped some of the gameplay. What the heck is going on in this level, Mitch? I see you going back.
So
I hated this level.
Yeah, so in this level, when you get to this point with the leaf, you have to hit a P-switch and then do zigzags in the coins, right? So that when the P-switch goes off, you create a stairwell for yourself. But I created too much distance between one zig, I guess. I don't know if it was a zag or zig, one of them, where it was like 6 blocks high, and Mario can't jump 6 block high. So I had to go back up and tail swipe, so I figured I'd meme around and clip for no reason, and then just get out of there, and then grab the fire flower and leave.
This hammer brother part is way harder than it looks too.
Well, it's once again, it's using things like what did we see like in World 6? I mean, we only see like 2 levels or 3 levels that actually have piranhas and ice cubes. So it's like, once again, just something that wasn't. It was only it's funny because I don't know if we're not criticizing, but we're pointing it out for Mario 3 that actually has kind of become a staple. I don't know. I just recently played through 3D Mario World, and there are things you only see in 1 or 2 levels. And the more I realize, I'm like, that's kind of what Mario has kind of been about over the last couple of decades.
They are really good at like one-timing you with things, and like the boot in Mario 3 is. It's only in 1 level, but it's everything. It's what everyone remembers.
I know.
So famous. It's in
Right?
not even 1 level, 1 optional level. You don't even have to play that level. It's not even a forced level. Yeah. So the boot's probably the best example too. And then what's crazy about the boot is that it has the double jump, but there's only 1 pit in that entire level that it has a double jump with it. So like the chances of you ever even trying the double jump or attempting it are like, 0.
Yeah, even if you did, you wouldn't know that you did, kind of thing, right? You wouldn't even know.
They have to do
it's funny that we're watching this playback before we go to the next topic. Is that I got to the Boom Boom, and there's a muncher there that you have to damage boost to get over to fight the Boom Boom. So I had to take the death, but there's like a strategy where if you just wait, the Boom Boom will actually go through the muncher, and then you can just fight him. So all of this is like I could have avoided this altogether, and. Interesting how strats get developed over time, like how that wasn't a thing before, but like I could have saved myself 3 minutes on this run.
It's also the thing. Oh, go ahead, Boop.
No, this is funny. This is a funny part too, because I was doing some commentary, and the chat all thought that I bothered Mitch, but they didn't even know he couldn't hear me at all. And then Mitch turns around and just he talks to me, and he just complains about the thing. He's just like, I don't know what hapappened.
Oh, but they thought I was like yelling at you.
Yelled at me.
I remember.
Everyone thought he yelled at me, and it was like there was like this Reddit thread that was like had like 40 or 50 replies about whether or not he yelled at me. It's just so funny how the internet works. Yeah. This level's awesome.
Okay, we have to talk about this level because it's so interesting. This exists in, once again, vanilla Mario 3. What are we looking at? Why are you pausing?
So those work on, I think the right term would be like a global timer, and that timer does not pause when you press pause. So this level is and I don't think the creator intended that. I don't even think he knew. So you can use that to your advantage to just be safe constantly. not only safe, but you can also control which kind of cycles you get. The piranha plants come out later. The turtles, they don't move when you're paused, so you can really, get a handle of yourself. Right? If I felt uncomfortable here, I would just press pause. Right? Oof. But yeah, yep, you just press pause and they keep going.
I'm curious, Mitch, if you saw any more people attempt this game once you had done like this kind of showing of it. Like, were there more people speedrunning the game, or even maybe picking up fan-made games for Mario 3?
I don't think this game specifically really blew up in popularity of players. I think a lot of people wanted to watch me keep going, but like Pooh Bear said, he played it, and then there's always been a handful of people who play Kaizos. Kaizos are just naturally interesting to a group of people. You just get drawn to it.
I know, Mitch, you've made your own Kaizo game at this point. And is it tough, creating something like this, or something that you find interesting and challenging?
It is, because while you're making it for other people to play as like a first impression, their first time, you also need to be satisfied with what you're making. You need to be happy with how it looks, how it plays. And sometimes when you make a hack, you can't really get that impression, so you need the right testers and stuff. So yeah, it is really a big process to like do all that stuff.
There's some interesting stuff happening in this level. I think we should talk about it, because some of the levels in World 7 of the vanilla game we see show up in fan-made games. We see them, even some of these things we'll talk about in Grand Poo World 2. You'll see some of these things there. What exactly is happening in this stage, and what makes it challenging?
So the first thing that's challenging is all the tight stuff at the beginning. One touch of the spike, you'll die. The second thing that's challenging is the turtle jumps. If you miss one turtle jump, you fall down to the bottom and die. And the other thing is challenging is using the up arrow platforms. If you don't, that's challenging right there, that the Goomba drops, right? The little Kaizo drops. But yeah, if you mistime all your jumps, things won't line up. I think I remember it. It was 6 bounces, then 5 bounces will lead me back onto the platform every time from the music note. And if I do 5 or 4 of each, then I'll squish, or I won't have enough height. And yeah, so it's just all timing, right?
I love those Yammer brothers, or the Fireball brothers here at the beginning of this level. Just so drops you. You just finished a really tough stage, drops you right into death right away.
And then
this game, that's one thing that this game's really like. You're gonna die right at the beginning of the stage too, and there's no instant retries in all these early Kaizo games too. So it's just so
it's funny
so when you're playing
that.
it casually, man. It's rough.
Yeah, look at this, just a garble of mess. It's funny
rough,
that
man.
Pooh Bear says that, because I don't ever remember complaining about that stuff when playing this game. But now, as someone who's played a lot of Kaizos and stuff, I really dislike the instant die at the start of a level. 2 seconds in die, 1 second in die, right? And you're working on that first jump for like 3 hours. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I don't remember complaining about it in this. I think it's new to me, so I didn't have a comfort.
Yeah, I think like in a Dram world, like we were a lot more lenient with level design, and now because we've seen,
where's my Hassenpfeffer, right? Like, we need it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, where is it? Like, the goodness.
Yeah, now we've been to paradise. We don't want to leave, and that's kind of, I'm sure we'll talk about that by the time we get to Grand Poo World 2, where the games are definitely evolving from not just being incredibly difficult, but visually appealing and gameplay appealing in a different way.
Yeah, Mitch, I'm curious about, like, when you have done some of your level design and things like that, do you take into account the aesthetics of it, the way it looks, or is it something where you're going for the flow? Okay, cool. So that is something.
Definitely. I want it to look right. I want worlds to like connect with each other. I want to make it really feel like a comfortable environment. Because if you constantly keep dying, you're gonna want to kind of like you're gonna want your player to like the overworld music and the way the world looks. If they're just like, if this is ugly, I keep dying, no retries, I'm out of here, right? That's just like, it's weird how that does play a small role on making hacks and ROMs and games and stuff. It's interesting.
I always like to say that, like, if you see those little details just on like the overworld right away, that there's a good chance the creator, because we don't know every creator. Like, not every creator is widely popular. You know what I mean? When you make your first hack, nobody knows who you are. So when you see that someone's gone in and done those visual details on, you know, the first level or the first overworld, you know that they probably also spent time doing those details on each jump and things like that, you know? So it definitely makes a difference.
It's true. You'd be surprised at how many hacks are like so good for the first 3 worlds, and then you can see how they got lazy in the last couple, or they rushed it, or you know what I mean? Like it's definitely out there.
And coming up with ideas for an entire, you know, game, as you know, at some point, you can only, you know, creativity, all that kind of stuff, I'm sure plays a factor into it. So as we're getting closer to the Bowser fight here, there are some really interesting spots here where you have to build up P speed and things like that. And I don't even know if we talked about it much, but a lot of Mario 3, and I've heard you talk about this all the time, Mitch, revolves around P speed. And it seems like this game really takes that into account in certain sections.
Yeah, a lot less than you would think in terms of vanilla, but when you get to certain areas, you have to have P speed or you're not gonna win. Like there was the level earlier where you hit the P switch and you had the munchers, right? You go one way with P speed, you go back the other way with P speed. If you don't do it properly, you'll die. And in this level, the conveyor belts, you have to build P speed and you have to connect specific shots with your hammers. And if you don't do that, yeah. So P speed, he made sure that if you did have to use P speed in this game, you have to do it right or else you'll die. And because of how fast you go with P speed, it gets very hard shooting fireballs and hammers in specific spots. It makes it interesting. Like like in this little section, you have to have P speed or you're not going to make it over the spikes, right? And here's a good example. You see how half the blocks are like missing?
Yes.
That's kind of what we were talking about, where when you use a big block in the overworld, they don't spawn. So he had to put in like 15 there to make sure one would spawn, right? Because it just doesn't work.
Yeah, that's actually like a really funny thing that we were trying to like play with when you know, Mitch was going really ham on speedrun strats later on. Was like,
that's
what,
right.
What blocks do we hit? Yeah, what blocks do we hit so they spawn differently? And there's like,
yeah, we forgot to mention you have to take an intentional death in this.
Yes.
So if you get, I forgot about that. If you get all the way to level like 13 or something, I think, without dying, you have to die really fast so that the blocks respawn.
Yeah.
You have to.
And that was just baked into the vanilla ROM of Mario 3.
Totally forgot about that. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. That's really funny. I mean, something we should mention too is like this level, like as you can see too, it's like he's taking each power up and, you know, making like the 5-room castle out of it, which is like a kind of a traditional Kaizo thing.
A lot of these jumps, Mitch, look like you're waiting until the very last moment too to jump. So very close calls on where you can actually press the jump button and succeed.
Oh yeah, but I mean later to find out, like you could have done that jump so much easier. Like I keep messing up on a jump. It's just like so easy. Like, you know, hindsight, 3 months into the future, strats, right?
You mentioned it, so you did spend. Oh, go ahead, Poop.
No, it's just amazing how much harder or how much easier this game is now with what we know than it was then. It really is.
And that's actually a good introduction for anyone who's into speedrunning. And you know, you always feel like you're at your potential, but you never are. You never believe that you're actually as good as you possibly can be, because there's always that little bit, there's always that other little trick, that other strat that makes something easier, you know, extra little time save, right? It's crazy.
You know, I know this is going to sound strange, but one of the things I didn't know about Mario 3 until I actually started speedrunning it myself was you can only have a certain amount of fireballs on screen at one time, especially after watching you, Mitch, because I see 100 fireballs
right there,
come out of Mario.
There's a lot
How are
of
you
fire
doing
coming
that?
at it. Yeah.
So that had to make this fight a little bit more challenging, you know, initially, or for people who are playing it casually on their first playthrough.
Oh, totally.
And I don't think there was any. I think that's just a vanilla Bowser, right? There's nothing. I don't think there was anything special. Okay.
They just moved around some blocks. You have to fire kill them, and they took away easy fire kill. But and that's something actually that you know, just recently we've gotten custom Mario 3 bosses. Really.
I mean, barely. We're on the surface, right?
Mitch had in his last hack. Mitch had like the first one that I can remember seeing. Actually, now that I think about it,
full on custom. It's like the ROM that I recently made, Mini Kaizo Verse 3. It was just so heavily inspired by Barb's Grand Poo World. Like, I still remember making it. I'm just like thinking like, oh, how did Barb make things like this work, or how did he's just so good at it, and it inspired me so much to want to make my own game a little bit like that.
Well, and that's where we're going to be going, folks, because we're going to start seeing the evolution of where fan-made games, Kaizo games, are going to go after this. This is pretty awesome to see this again and to relive this moment. Does definitely one of those ones that blew my mind. So thanks for sharing your insight and everything like that.
It was a lot of fun. I don't think I've actually watched that run since like a few months after it came out on the YouTube channel or whatever.
Yeah,
That was really cool.
that was fun.
It's the same thing as Drams. I think this inspired a lot of people to give Mario 3 fan-made games or Kaizo games, a try. Like, I didn't even know these things existed until basically I saw Dram and you running these games. So it's really awesome. It's really cool. Obviously, being a fan of it helps as well. So what we're going to do here, folks, so if you're watching us live here on Twitch, we're going to take a quick break here, give everyone a chance to stand up and go to the restroom if they need to. But don't go anywhere. After we come back to the break, we're going to have a roundtable discussion with Dram55, Penga, Mitch, and Grand Pooh Bear, all when we return. Don't go anywhere. Stick around. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to Games Done Classic, where we're looking back at legendary GDQ moments with the legends that made these runs, these performances happen in the first place. If you're watching this on YouTube and would like to support our live content, please consider checking out our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/GDQ. And if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe to any Twitch channel of your choice every month for free. Please consider using it on us here at GDQ so that you can help keep supporting GDQ hotfix content that you are watching right now. If you're live in the channel right now, folks, if you're on Twitch, we are live here. We are live here, and we're sitting down with, well, I guess virtually sitting down on the virtual couch here with some people who have been involved in Kaizo fan-made games for a very long time. Here we have Dram55, Grand Pooh Bear, Pangea Panga, and Mitch Flower Power. How y'all doing? Thanks so much for being here, y'all.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So I thought to have this opportunity to bring all of you together in the first place and talk a little bit about how we've seen, take us back first of all to, way back in the day and what it was like, before Super Dram World came out, what was the Kaizo and fan-made games like in the Mario community? And I'm going to throw this up to whoever wants to what kind of games existed before Super Dram World?
I can't ask me that question.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that's a Penga Dram question.
Yeah, so I first got introduced to Kaizo stuff around 2008, and back then there was not a lot of ROM hacks related to being extremely difficult, and the ones that were kind of badly made. They were on the verge of being the trolley types. And eventually around maybe 2009, 2010, they started to surface and become a little better in terms of level design. And that's when I started to make levels and ROM hacks. So between 2010 and 2015, there would be a progression. And it wasn't really until Dram World came out that I noticed Kaizo was actually good. And most of the Kaizo levels were made for tasks only, or people that had to use save states, had to play the game slower. So before Dram World, I don't think most of the Kaizo hacks were tailored towards people that actually wanted to, or who were masochistic enough to play them without save states. So that was what the Kaizo community was kind of back then, I'd say, at least in my experience.
Well, and I'm curious, Penga, because so you're the creator of Super Dram World, and had you been speedrunning Mario World at this point? What was your experience with the vanilla version of Mario World?
My experience is actually in the reverse compared to most people. So it was my first game, and I played it casually. I beat it, but I never speedran it, and I never knew speedruns existed until 2014. And it wasn't until I saw Dram's speedrun at GDQ where I was like, wow, people actually play this game without using save states. Since I was a tasser back then, and when I saw Dram do this, I was like, maybe there's people that actually would play Kaizo hacks without save states. So I tried to make an easier version, since the hacks I made back then were extremely hard and not meant for people to be played like that. But yeah, that was my experience with Super Mario World.
when you started creating it, I have to ask. I mean, was it Super Dram World the original title of the game? Like, was this going to be a game named after Dram?
At first, I didn't really have a title. I'm really bad at making titles, but when I started making it, I was kind of tailoring it towards him-ish, since he was the only person that I really knew that played Kaizo hacks. It wasn't until I stumbled upon a couple other streamers like LinkDead and Area 51 that also did it. But Dram became my inspiration for the hack, so I guess I just named it after him because of that.
Did you know Dram before you started working on it?
Not personally. I knew his name, and occasionally I would stop by when he streamed, but I don't think it was until after Dram that we really got to know each other a little better.
So, Dram, I got to ask, when you find out that there's a game named after you, how do you react? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was pretty, I don't know, it was interesting. I don't really remember my reaction at the time. I can tell you, Panga, I've never felt more guilty than right now for never finishing the game.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, you know, this is gonna sound super fangirly, but like it's always been a dream of mine to have Dram watch one of my Dram World runs, and he never has because he's never finished the games. He doesn't want spoilers, which I respect. I totally respect that, you know. But it's just it's really funny.
Yeah,
he says that now.
I would have took couch on this run. I think you may have asked, but I was already home.
It was Sunday and you were leaving. I asked for both my Dram World runs, but they were late in the week, so unfortunately you couldn't do them.
That's what happens when you're prime time, Pooh.
Yeah.
Pooh, I got to ask, Pooh, because I have heard so many speedrunners credit and thank Dram in their runs, in the in the fan-made games they've created. Why is that? What is it about Dram that inspired a lot of you to try these things and to do these things?
Well, I think it's kind of like GDQ, especially those years of GDQ, like I'd say like 2012 to 2015 were very like, it was just exploding information, speedrun information onto the scene, you know, onto all these other gamers. And that was, you know, those GDQs, 2015 GDQs specifically, like really, really inspired me to start speedrunning. And so it was Dram's Kaizo run that made me think like, well, if he can play this game, which I thought at that point only TASes had ever done, only, you know, computers. I didn't even know what TAS meant at the time, but only like computers had ever done. If this guy can play this game live in front of an audience, this game that I thought was so hard, I was like, I could be not last on the Mario 3 leaderboard. And it was that run and Sinister's blindfolded Tyson Punch-Out run where he lost to Tyson. Those two runs, like, I looked at those things, and those are just like things I thought were just impossible in gaming. And if these two guys could do that, I certainly could be not last on the Mario 3 leaderboard. And that was my original main goal of speedrunning. That's how I picked up speedrunning to begin with. So, yeah, Dram's run is, I mean, not to sound like an idiot, but it was a literal life-changing experience for me now at this point, you know? Changed everything for me, so, yeah.
I can only imagine. I mean, I had a similar experience. So I know exactly how you feel. I don't think I'd be speedrunning today if it weren't for seeing some of these games be played back then. Mm-hmm. Panga, I'm curious about the process here of creating Super Dram World. Were you the only one testing it at the time, or did you share this with anybody before it was complete? Like, how did you get to where we found the final version of this game?
I think I was the only tester. I had just gone off my first year of college, so it was summer break, so I had all the time in the world. And I think I worked like 8 hours a day for 2 weeks. Because I mean, in 2 weeks, I wanted to get it out ASAP. I know like rush jobs aren't the greatest, but I was kind of excited to work on it. So I think I did all the play testing. As a result, there's a bit of cheese and some parts are a little iffy, but for the most part, it
does hold up pretty well.
Yeah, it did the work. I mean, that's how I always did my all my fan-made games. I'd play test them myself, but this one was a little different since I had to I had to think in the mindset that people are gonna play this start to finish without save states, and they're gonna struggle. But once I got that mindset, it kind of helped.
Where did you get inspiration from? I mean, at this point now that we know, so Mario Maker has been out for a little bit. There's also now there is a little bit of a library of some fan made and Kaizo games. Where did you get inspiration from for this game?
Definitely the original Kaizo. That has been pretty much the foundation for all of my family games. When I first watched it, I was like, wow, this is hard. Since when I beat Super Mario World casually, I was like, it wasn't too difficult. It was fun. And it wasn't until I saw that I was like, wow, this seems really intense. And knowing me, I took it a step further and I made it even harder. And eventually I wanted to try to make the hardest things ever. But I realized not everyone would want to play that. So when I saw Dram play it, I decided I want to make some easier stuff, but still be challenging. And finding that balance is pretty tough. And I still struggle with that today. But after making Dram World, it was a ton of fun because you have to make a lot of decisions about what you want to make harder, what you want to make easier, what jumps you want to include, what you want to exclude. And the process in making these games is something I think I've always enjoyed since I was young. But yeah, it wasn't if I never stumbled across the original Kaizo or the video that Dram talked about, that I think things would be a little different for me. I probably would have found it eventually, but not as early as I did.
It was
Mitch,
like
I'm
perfect
curious.
timing, right? Because you like just finished. What was it, your first semester? So it just like worked out perfectly.
Yeah, it's also true.
I still, it's just the fact that you were doing this while you're getting ready for college at such a young age, I mean, just kind of blows my mind. Like, it's really impressive. Mitch, did you play this when it first came out? And what did you think about it?
No, I didn't play this when it first came out. I think the first time I saw it was Grand Pooh Bear playing it, if I remember correctly, right?
I remember Mitch's first playthrough, and then right after he got done, this is probably like a monthish before my GDQ run. Right after he got done, him and LinkDead were having like this crazy like brainstorming session on strats, and
Like a
he blew open like
strat battle.
he blew open like one level in particular because there's this skip you can do called mushroom skip. I don't get it in the run. I attempt it, but I don't get it in the run. And it's like a triple frame perfect trick that it requires, but it saves like 40 seconds on a game that you just don't get a lot of time saves on it. Yeah, so again, just a testament to Mitch, like how incredible he is. Like games he doesn't even play, he just picks up out of nowhere and just smacks out game-changing strats. Yeah.
Yeah, the popularity of Pooh Bear doing it made it exciting. It made it more interesting and made it more like, let's see how far we can take this game. And like, anytime I found any little thing, whether it was hard or easy, I would just send it to Pooh, right?
Yeah.
I was like his little strat finder or whatever. I would just send it to him and be like, I don't know if you can use this. And like, I remember, you know, there's one in like the first level, there's like a screen scroll in the second level. And there's just, yeah. So I just stood on the side and just like did strat findings.
Yeah, and I'll say, yeah, it was kind of it was super fun by the end of that run. It was like it felt like the whole community was really like, I always say it takes a community to make a speed run, but like that run in particular just felt like the whole community was super excited about having that game in particular in, because like a lot of people were just, you know, trying to just help however they could with that run in particular, which made it a lot both harder because the strats got harder and easier on me because, you know, you know, people are just seeing things that I couldn't, you know, see because you're so laser focused on trying to get your run.
There are, I think there are many different contributions to the fan-made scene that we've seen it grow to what it is today. And I really think this is one of those runs, as well as some other things, but that have contributed to the growth. And I'm curious if you all observed, I mean, I don't want to say it might be this drastic, but there is definitely a difference between fan-made games after Super Dram World and before Super Dram World. And I'm curious if any of you observed that or seen that or wanted to, like, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the quality of the family games made post Dram World has been kind of incredible. Like the quality, people have definitely put time and effort into making like all their levels and making it look good, making it play well. They have play testers, and pre Dram World, like I'm pretty sure Dram World was kind of the first one that had the difficulty and the kind of appeal of being wanted to be played by people. So the quality before that, and the quantity was both drastically lower.
Yeah, I after this, I think it just because this run was also coincided with like Mario Maker had been out for about a year, and so many things, especially in Penga was the driving force of Kaizo Mario Maker. Like that, Penga was Kaizo Mario Maker for the
Well,
first
that's what the
6,
races
7 months.
were at
Yeah.
GDQ, right? We were racing Kaizo
Penga was.
levels.
Yeah,
That's what the
yeah.
GDQ race was.
Yeah, right
That's
after Mitch's Kaizo 3 run, we literally did a race of it was like 10 levels, and I think 8 of them were Pengas.
Yeah.
And he was in the race, and he won. I mean, go figure. Yeah, Penga. I mean, Penga just really like he himself, and he achieved not just like critical success in his Mario Maker levels, but also Twitch success. Like his success, because he was becoming such a big streamer, it kind of like spread out to me at this point. I was a 10 viewer streamer, as going into Mario Maker playing Penga levels, but because Penga was so big, just you playing his levels increased your stream. And then he would, he started dropping raids on us, and that's how me and Mitch met. And I mean,
yeah, ours was the race
really blew it up.
for P-Break, right?
Yeah. And that's when I'd say like that was just like this perfect storm of things. So Mario Maker had been out for a year. We showed this ROM hack by the biggest creator in Mario Maker. He's like a name brand guy. He's getting Kotaku articles every damn week at this point. You know what I mean? Like Penga is, created by him, and we show this ROM hack, and it's a really good time. The run goes really well, and it did seem like post that the scene just kind of like, the powder keg was lit. It was like all these little fireworks finally put in the right spot, and it just lit this powder keg, and it went from, 3 to 6 guys to just this massive amount of people now.
I think that's why it's kind of fun to watch, starting back from Dram's run, where basically you had the entire community of Mario speedrunners who played fan-made games or Kaizo games, all in one spot. And we're starting to see the evolution grow here a little bit. I'm going to start playing the actual run itself. And I obviously, the first question I got to ask is, Pooh, how do you prepare to play a game like this? Because I've tried playing this game myself. I've never gotten past the 3rd level. Like, it's just an incredibly challenging game. How do you prepare for something like this?
I played a lot. I played a lot. This was my life for probably like February, right after I got back from that GDQ. And I had, the only reason I started playing this because I ran out of Penga Mario Maker levels. And, he was like, well, I made a ROM hack. So I was like nagging. I was like, hey, make more levels for me. And he was like, yo, I made a ROM hack. So
before you did Dram World, that was when you were still like Mario 3's better than Super Mario World at that time?
I still feel that way. I still feel like the Mario 3 base game is significantly better than the Mario World base game. I'll never give up that hill. But yeah, up to that point, I was what do I want to say? I was like, I was maybe a bit hesitant to do Mario World in general, because I liked Mario 3 so much, and I don't know, I felt like there was like this weird rivalry that didn't really exist, but I was kind of like holding off on doing it. But yeah, I ran out of Penga's levels, and he was like, I literally said, well, I made a ROM hack if you want to play that. and so yeah, and so that's how I started playing it. That's literally why.
Had you done any solo runs up to this point?
No, the only things I had done up to this point were Mario Maker stuff. I did the Mario Maker Kaizo race with Mitch the year before, and then I did a blind Mario Maker race the summer before in the SGDQ game. So this is my 3rd GDQ, but this is my first solo run. So I was also like incredibly nervous for that. Yeah, super scary. Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask, because Mitch mentioned the nerves, and it's surprising to hear you guys say the nerves because you seem so comfortable and everything out there. But playing a game like this, it had to be, right? There's just anything could go wrong.
No, my heart was, the whole week, my heart was just like beating super hard, because I was nervous for a lot of reasons. Like, one, I felt like if I didn't do well on this, like, because at this point, it's the 3rd time these have been in. But this one was a big like a step up in difficulty from Kaizo 1. I just felt like if I bombed it, like I was ruining it for everybody. Like no other Kaizo game was ever going to get in, and so like that was a big pressure. And then it's also your first solo run, and on top of that, I actually I just became a full-time streamer about a month before this too. So, you know, in the back of my mind too, I don't like want to bomb because like this is now my job. You know what I mean? Like it just was a lot of things, and I mean, but to that extent, just like Mitch said, I'll never not get nervous on especially a solo run. I'll always be a ball of nerves going into a solo run. It's just impossible not to be, because you work so hard to it. It's like a fight night, you know. It's like being a boxer, a UFC fighter. You know, you're going for months and months and months of training for one night, and if you bomb it, you don't get another one. You know what I mean? Another opportunity may not come. You know, it's like Olympians. Like it's just may not be there. So yeah, it means a lot, and you got to crush it. You know, so.
Well, it's
Definitely
glad to
nervous.
hear that there's like, you know, actual nerves, because it makes you a
Incredible
little more
amounts.
human, you know. So-
Oh no, incredible amounts. And I try my best to hide it. And one thing that I knew going into this was that I knew I was gonna die a lot. Like I knew I was gonna die.
Right.
I knew, you know, there was no doubt about that. So one thing I really wanted to focus on, and if you see, like, I really wanted to have a stupid, loud, hyped up crowd. Like I didn't want to have any quiet time. I didn't want to have any serious time. I wanted like clapping, lit, hooting, hollering. I don't know if you can see it in the small box, but my mom's actually like right behind my shoulder, with a
Oh,
Mama
cool.
Pooh Bear shirt on there, and she's like screaming the whole time on the second couch, you know. And I was like, I also like planned to show off a bunch of blocks too, so I could also, like, when I died, it didn't look as bad because I was like going to take intentional deaths anyway. So
Yeah, sometimes stuff like that takes the pressure off when you start
Yeah.
doing little silly things. And I know that same thing happened with the Grand Prix World 2 run. Like I hadn't actually planned on doing any of the portraits, but during the run, the guys are like, "Yo, fine, do the portraits," and it just takes it off and makes it more of a fun thing. It really does take the pressure off.
Penga, you know, at the beginning of the game, during the start screen, there was actually a version number for this game. Were there any things that were created or made just specifically for the GDQ run, or what were some of the things you've changed, I guess, throughout the development of the game?
It wasn't until Dram World 2 that I made anything specific to like runs, but Dram World 1. So there's a special world, and that special world is the only part that I didn't imagine people would do legit. So there's a level, the last level is called Dram's Butthole, and that's just kind of because I'm a 19-year-old kid, I know what I mean, but yeah, it used to be way harder, and I had to nerf it so that people would actually try to play it. And I remember watching LinkedIn, who spent 24 hours trying to beat it, and that was on the nerfed version. So you can imagine how hard the original version was. I can't imagine what version 1.1 fixed, but yeah, that was version 1.2. It just made it more potentially playable.
Yeah, and for the record, for me in Dram World 2, I did make Panga put in replace. It was one single block, one muncher with one single block that made a skip that if I missed the skip, I like literally had to like reset the game and play 2 levels over.
No.
Yeah, so I asked him to do it maybe like I don't know, 12 hours before my run.
Yeah, I remember
And he was
that.
super nice about it. Yeah, he was super nice about it. And luckily it worked out. You know, I might have been okay, but it was like one of those things where I was just like, but yeah.
Penga,
That's
I'm
that
curious.
cape section, wasn't it, with the green
Yeah,
block
the
or
cape
whatever?
section, yeah.
You mentioned that it was so challenging that LinkedIn, after 24 hours, was still struggling with it. Were you able to beat that section without save states?
Yes, it took me not the old version, the new version. It took me an hour and 30 minutes, I think.
So okay, still super challenging.
Yeah, it was still tough.
After building it for a long time. And to this day, I would say Dram's Butthole is one of the hardest levels that in a like widely played ROM hack, you know?
Yeah, it's
for sure.
very tough.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult.
For those of us that really enjoy watching these things, and we've seen nowadays and we'll see in Grand Prix World 2, where there's a lot of custom things that weren't in the vanilla game that we're getting to see nowadays. Was there anything that you added into the vanilla game, or is this a vanilla fan-made game or Kaizo game?
This is mostly vanilla. I think the non-vanilla things are just like quality life things. But yeah, I wanted to make Dram World is close to mimicking the original Kaizo Mario series as possible, just to get that nostalgic feel. So that game is also pretty much vanilla with a very few tweaks. And I kind of want to make the whole Dram World series like that. Like Dram World 2 is also similar with the vanilla feel and with the quality of life options. But yeah, that's pretty much how I felt about Dram World.
And one thing I'd say that Dram World did is like if Kaizo introduced some like themes and tropes, like Dram World like cemented them in, like the 5-world castle or the 5-room castle, and you know, like a certain amount of Kaizo blocks and the use of munchers and things. Like I think like some of those tropes that he used became things that you're going to see repeated in all Kaizo hacks now in some ways, which is kind of fun.
Dram, I gotta ask, you know, when you hear about things like, well, there's a section of the game called Butthole, things like that. Any thoughts on that as a game that's named after you?
Oh yeah, it was really funny, and I still have never played my butthole. So.
Dram, we've been in there a lot. Don't worry. You know?
Yeah, thanks, man.
You know, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna answer. Yeah, it's just very interesting and funny. Yeah, it made me laugh when I first heard it. Of course.
So, Dram, I do have to ask. You know, you mentioned you haven't played the game all the way through. Is it something that you just haven't found the time for it, or you know, I'm curious. You know, what prevents you from getting across that finish line?
You know, everything with my personally with my streaming and speedruns, I've always just gone whatever I was most interested in. And I think I had burned out on Kaizo. So by the time I was very honored to have a game named after me. But I think by the time I tried to play it, I don't know, I guess it was burnout. So
that's a real thing. I mean, we talk about that in speedrunning all the time. Burnout can be an absolute real thing. And especially seeing a game that's as challenging as this. I mean, Pooh, have you ever felt like you've burned out doing, like, because you had done 1,000 runs by the time you got to this, right?
Yeah, I mean, Dram 1 actually is like a game that I've always had the goal. I always had the dream of doing a deathless Dram 1, like a full optimized, like get every skip deathless Dram 1. And I've had 1 death. I've had a 3 death that was stupid fast. But I've never got the deathless run. And I
had a deathless run though, right?
I had one down to the last hit of Bowser one time, and I last hit of Bowser and a mushroom in the. I don't want to talk about it. It's a great clip though, if you ever want to see it. I've been really close. Yeah, I've been really, really close. So and I still have that dream, and so every once in a while, the motivation has creeped back in for me, and I'll go and still bang out some Dram World runs, and it's not too hard for me to play myself back into shape because I've spent, you know, a year and a half pretty much on this game. But what's been really cool is Super Ben. I had the Dram World 1 and 2 records for 4 years, both games, all categories, and Super Ben just in the last like 2 months has taken them from me, which has been really, really cool to see that happen. So mad incredible props to him, because that's wasn't easy. But it wasn't easy because I spent a lot of time on these runs. They were like very good, optimized, you know, runs I was proud of.
I always felt that every time you don't die in a level, the next level just gets harder.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, it's not like the level's harder in the sense of being hard. It's only harder because you've done 4 levels without dying, and then 5 levels without dying, and then 6 levels. Had you died, the level wouldn't be hard. It just gets harder.
Yeah. It's like hitting like 23 pointers in a row, you know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, if you're a good shooter, you can hit 5, 6, 7, 8. But 20 is a lot, you know, and it just adds up. So.
Do have to ask about, because as we're watching this, we just saw you go for the mushroom skip. And Pango, was that something that was intended, the mushroom skip, or was that something that runners found as they played through the game?
That was not intended. I did not know that was even possible until
that was
they brought it
a newly discovered thing, I think, in Super Mario World at the time, right? Because Link Dead also didn't know that you could do something like that.
Yeah, because for the whole debate was, and I remember the specific stream it happened. It was a Sunday afternoon because I wasn't streaming. I was taking the day off, and Mitch is playing, Dram World, and he had just beaten it, and he's kind of like messing around and playing with strats, and he's like, "Yo, I think you can swim this turtle shell through this spot, and then maybe we could keep a mushroom." And the first thing I'm saying is, no, it's not possible to even swim the turtle shell. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking. Mitch gets that, right? He gets it in. So he finds a way he gets it once. And then all of a sudden it became, well, there's no way to get the mushroom. And then LinkedIn comes back like 45 minutes later with a, I don't even think it's a clip at this point. I don't even think clips existed, but it's like a Twitch highlight of him getting the mushroom in the water, and then Mitch, has to put it together, and then we, the actual skip of doing the rope, taking damage while holding onto the rope, that's like a known common vanilla thing. So it was just like, well, now we know we can get a mushroom at the end of this level. Is it going to be possible to do? And like, I think like an hour and a half later, we're all sitting there BSing, and Mitch is just running around on save states, and he pops one out, and like, that was it. And that was it.
Yeah.
So like my next like 3 weeks, like that's all my practice was. Just that,
So we haven't really mentioned it, but what it does is it allows you to skip pretty much this whole rope level.
Whole level, yeah.
You hold the rope, you take damage, and then the rope goes away, and you're still holding onto the rope in midair. So you can just keep jumping. You just jump all the way to the top of the level and just keep jumping all the way across until you beat the level, and that's it. No Kaizo tricks, no Kaizo traps, nothing.
And it was so huge at the time, because it essentially saved like the entire, it's like 30 seconds, and that's like a death or two, which I mean makes a huge difference in this game, for sure. In a game where you're every trick is a speedrun trick essentially, like difficulty wise. So yeah.
The chat is quick to point out, though, that it ends up in Dram World 2, and so Pega, then the question becomes, was it intended for that?
So I knew the rope skip was possible in Dram World 1, and I made it like my mission to prevent it from happening in Dram World 2. But spoilers, it still happens.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, I found out, like back then my mindset kind of changed, because I really wanted to prevent that sort of like cheese or breaks. But then after Dram World 2, I realized that that's what makes speedruns interesting, trying to find ways to like circumvent the creator's intended ways of playing the game. So eventually I just like left it in. I think I made like one more attempt to prevent another skip from happening, but then LinkedIn found another way around it, and I was like, all right, you know what? The speedrunners win.
Yeah.
I got to ask Penga, because one of the things I find interesting is the number of levels that end up in any given game. And is it something where you had intended to only set out to do a certain amount of levels, or what makes you end up, choosing the amount of levels that you have in the game?
I don't really have like a specific amount, but I try to have a minimum just to have or see what kind of experience the player might have and how enjoyable it might be. Because I know if you make a couple levels, the people might want more, and if you make it too long, then they might get bored. So I found that most of these games have anywhere between like 10 to 20. So I kind of just base it around there, and then if I ever run out of ideas, that's basically where I stop. Whenever I run out of ideas, I'm like, all right, I think that's enough.
That's it.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite levels just to watch as a fan. And I'm curious, is this a speed built into the level editor, or is this something you have to get? Like, how does that work? Because this isn't in the vanilla game. I don't remember experiencing a level at this speed in vanilla.
You don't technically have to make like any adjustments. It's kind of built in, but I think it's one of those quirks where it's like the original game never used it, but they just had the code for it.
Got it.
There's a platform later on in this game that's not in the original game, right? But it's just in the code's in there, in the Peace level, right? That big moving platform.
I think so. Yeah, I have to see, because I honestly forget.
Yeah. One little thing, I mean, about this level too, that's very interesting, is the last pipe that you go into. So, like, for those who don't know, like, Super Mario World pipes are decoration, and you're really going into a pointer, as it's called, and the pointer actually like moves its location depending on Yoshi's height in this level. So it's actually like very that getting in that pipe is actually like super hard.
Very tough.
It's just it's a very weird thing. Like, you could hit the same spot twice, But if Yoshi height was different, you're not going in.
It's like one of those tricks where if you fail it, you actually don't even really get upset or care that much because it's just like just the way it is. It's like almost chance sometimes, but not quite.
And if you don't die on the level at all, on the second half of the level, the turtle spawns a little too low and you'll miss the turtle off the note block. So you have to do like a funny little jump. If you, yeah, there's a whole bunch of like there's a lot of little quirks in this game like that. Like in this level, right here, to spawn a boss pattern that makes me not have to take an intentional death with the Eries, I have to actually spawn, hold on, these first Eries right after the fishing boo here, after I go over this ledge. These two Eries, I spawn them a specific way. This I just found on like complete accident one day. But I spawn these Eries a specific way. You see one, then the other, and that causes a specific pattern for the boss and makes me not have to take an intentional death on that boss and saves a little bit of time. So, and there's other little moments like that, like in the 5-room castle, like how the dolphins spawn can make me spawn the right boss pattern. So yeah.
There's also times, and you mentioned at the beginning of the run, but where you look like you're taking weird jumps, but you're avoiding Kaizo blocks, and it's one of the things we as viewers, we don't get a chance to see that when you're doing this live, not unless we go watch your stream and stuff. So it's kind of fun to see that and to know that those things actually exist.
Yeah. Now that you're talking about boss patterns, I think we had found wasn't it like 17 Wendy's?
Yeah, there's 17 Wendy's, and like 5 of them were slower than taking an intentional death, and then so I memorized the other 12, and there's 4 that popped up a lot if I do it, but I memorized the other 12, and then if I got one of the other ones, like I was just SOL, you know. So that was a big thing, and that's actually been one of the things that's been really hard when I go back to this game is I've lost my notes on the Wendy patterns, like, you know, on a hard drive somewhere. I bet I could find them, but I lost my notes. So when I go back, I pretty much have to hope for one of like the 4 main patterns I get, and sometimes I'm just, SOL.
Penga, is that something that you program in, or is that just built into the Wendy code?
That's built into the game. Yeah, the game has its own like RNG, and it's a seed, and then there's the bunch of different enemies and things that can manipulate that RNG, so it feels fresh every time. But yeah, I didn't do anything to like make it change.
Yeah, it's just so like, whatever frames you get there will determine the pattern. I think Super Mario World has a frame counter for RNG, right? It's got a normal frame counter and then RNG frame counter, maybe? I don't know.
Something like that. There's like people that have in-depth analysis on how RNG works in that game, but I just use it for the basic needs, like the Wendy fight.
Yeah, like the Wendy fight, what I noticed was if I missed the door and I'd spawn different dolphins, that's when I would lose one of my optimal patterns, you know? But if I had like this many dolphins spawned, then I would get one of the 4 best patterns generally, you know? And that's what's really interesting about it. And the same thing with that boo fight. There's also a little spawn trick with a turtle later on, but it's not that big a deal in a water level.
Well, even these chucks that we're at now, like he let the plant go down halfway before he went down, so that when he did go down, the chucks had just started their cycle. You know, there's a lot of enemy manipulation in this run, actually.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Penga, you mentioned. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the Super Dram World run, I don't like, because I think like most people think like these games are like just don't die. I don't think people will never really understand how incredibly like difficult this run is, and how like it has a ton of really small optimizations in it.
If this happens here, I gotta do this, and if this happens there, I gotta do that kind of stuff, right? Like it's all.
And that all is because like there was, and again, that was literally a community working on it with me. I deserve no credit. Like Penga deserves the credit for the you know, building it, you know, in such a magical way, even if they were happy little accidents, Bob Ross style, like, you know, like, and the players that were helping me. Yeah, this platform right here though, I don't think is in the main game.
You're right. I don't remember.
Yeah.
You bring up a point about the community and stuff, and Penga, you mentioned that you kind of got your starter, had done a lot of tool-assisted speedrunning. Did anybody end up ever making a task for this game, or Penga, did you make one yourself?
Yeah, there's a guy named Kaizo Man who made a task for this game whose name you know based on the Kaizo series, and he's actually one of the first people I met in the Super Mario World community. So there's all. I think he also made a task of the sequel as well. There are people that task pretty much most Kaizo games. So
Uh, have you ever tasked like a Kaizo game yourself, Penga? Because I'm curious
Yeah.
if there's any like is it more challenging or is it different or is it just kind of the same as you would any other game?
yeah, I actually made a task of Grand Prix World 1 and also of Super Panga World, which is the game Link Dead made. Because he got so angry at me for Dram World, he made Panga World. But yeah, tasking the game it's different than playing it since the strats and the like different skips you find are very unique, and there's a lot of quirks that you need to know when you're tasking game if you want to go for like the absolute fastest completion. There's things like, for example, in swimming, if you turn left and right every other frame, that's faster than just holding right. And then there's wall jumping, which is pretty hard. It's a frame perfect, pixel perfect trick. And as a tasker, you kind of look out for those things to see if you can save time or skip over sections. And when you speedrun a game normally, those things are kind of most of the part out of the question since they're just not the most reasonably done thing. But yeah,
Hasn't played Mario 3 before.
I also we gotta point out a little bit because what's going on in this level, because like you're obviously swimming in a very unusual pattern, avoiding the fishing boo. What's going on? Talk us through this a little bit.
Fishing Boo was a lot more of a mortal enemy. At this point, I think we've all kind of figured out how Fishing Boo thinks and operates, but yeah. At this point in time, Fishing Boo is just a much more mortal enemy, and this is one of those levels where I just try to do the same thing every time, you know, hit the same spots, you know, get your markers, hit the same spots every time that allow you, and you know, right there I screw up, but hit those spots that allow you to get the patterns that you want, and
Is Fishing Boo
it's
random,
very
or is it just reacting to what you're doing, or how does Fishing Boo work?
well, everything in every what do I want to say? There's no true randomness in video games, and that's something that, you know, we figured out. There's no true randomness. So if you can figure out what controls the randomness, whether that's your character movement or enemy spawns or whatever, you can kind of get a grip on it. And Fishing Boo's no different. He goes off your movement. So if you can use, you know, walls, which that level had a lot of, and, you know, pixels and visual spots to make your moves, you can get him to do what you want most of the time. So it's just kind of like learning what they're going to react to, you know? Yeah.
Garrett, yeah, I think you were scared for this level a lot. This little section right here, that's...
Yeah.
So I gotta ask, Penga, this looks somewhat similar to a level we just saw in Kaizo Mario World. Was there any influence there for this level?
oh yeah, it's very much influenced. Like the name is Ultra Star 3.0, and in the Kaizo game, it's called Ultra Stars. So it was one of my favorite levels in Kaizo, and I really wanted to make my own version. So yeah, we just named it after it. And the very beginning is actually identical with like the red block outlines and the first platform. Like I want to make that exactly the same to kind of get that nostalgic feel. But one thing I did learn about when I made this level is that you can put too many Kaizo blocks in level.
There's so many. You have literally every single jump in this is a Kaizo block. Every single one.
There are 19 blocks.
Yeah,
And
it's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. And although one thing I did do is I put a twist on one of the Kaizo blocks. Like we saw when Dram was playing Kaizo 1 in his run, there was a Kaizo block underneath an on-off block. So like you said, you had to swing out to hit it. But I made it so that there's an extra Kaizo block on the point where you want to swing out. So you actually have to swing out on the other side.
As a creator and a designer, how much fun is it to see all of your friends and stuff run into all these Kaizo blocks?
Oh,
in this level?
it's a ton of fun. I even made like a little montage of clips of people just hitting Kaizo blocks.
Yeah, just to mention how many Kaizo blocks are in this game, like probably like 2 years after this run happens, I'm going back in trying to lower my Dram World record time, and I hit a Kaizo block at the end of this level, the very last jump at the end of this level. I had never hit before, never seen before, never knew it was I was like, did I get a patch version from Penga? Like, where did this even come from? So Right here, actually, this is another strat that Mitch found, like a really genius strat that I never even thought of. But he just screen scrolls the screen left, and then you get to skip a whole cycle of business right there. So
yeah, a little
that's
time
just
save. I
such
forgot about that one.
yeah, such an incredible. Yeah, Mitch found that one. That was such an incredible no skill required massive time save. It was just such a genius move that I had never even thought of doing.
I got to ask, Mitch, because you have now a history over a decade of finding some wild strats that just others just don't think of. Is that something you've always done in video games? Is that like always been kind of like how you play games, is like looking for things that may be possible?
Definitely. I really like just like not doing what they want me to do, and I just try really hard to see if I can come up with my own way. It's something I've always liked to do with video games. Speed was never something I really enjoyed. I've always enjoyed more of trying to go outside. Like video games with out of bounds, I think is like so cool. Like you're just breaking the boundaries and going out. I've always liked stuff like that. But then speedrunning comes more into the play of like skillful, like a sport, I guess. So I'm more towards that. But not with Super Dram World. Not with this game. I barely did speedruns of this game.
You know, Glitch Cat mentioned something in the chat that I think we kind of skip over nowadays because we've seen it for so long, but that old school style shell jump, even shell jumping, I remember first seeing it when, first seeing you all try some of these things. Like shell jumping is something that wasn't, there's never, can't remember a level in vanilla where you actually needed to shell jump anything. And it's something we almost take for granted nowadays.
Yeah, so when I made Dram World, I knew shell jumps were a thing. I've known they were a thing for a while, but my impression with shell jumps is they were like tasks only and they were hard to do. So I only threw in like maybe one or two in the entire hack. Since also Kaizo in general.
But you had the double one in the Rise and Fall, right?
I think there's
like
the one,
that one.
Yeah, there's the one in level 3, the short shell jump, and then the there's maybe four. If you count the double as 2.
Yeah. Since I knew the original Kaizo never had a shell jump, except for one shell jump in Kaizo 3. So I wanted to like make my level design based around that.
It was like a hidden thing at that time too, because when you do a shell jump, you feel like a boss. So it's like everywhere now. Everyone does it.
Yeah.
And you want to do it too. You don't like hacks that are riddled with them. It gets kind of stale, but like you still feel like a boss when you're going like max speed after like 3 tricks. You grab a shell, this big long shell jump. You're happy.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Like shell jumping is weird because at the time shell jumping was not like, it was considered like a super advanced trick. You know what I mean? It was like your shell jumping. If you could shell jump, not even if you were good at it, but if you could, like, was separating like the scrub tier from the god tier at that point. And now it's so automatic. Like now now the common joke is like, oh my God, you missed a shell jump in 2021, you're a scrub. Because nobody misses them anymore. Not just in this game or Mario Maker now. Everyone's just so freaking good at them now. It's so incredible. And just like such a testament to how stinking good the community's gotten, you know?
Yeah, there's also
honestly,
like lots of shell hacks now too.
Yeah. I find it interesting with shell jumps too. It's the concept of letting go of B and holding A rather than, our entire life playing Mario was always let go of A, then repress A while holding B, not let go of B and repress A. Like that's like the hidden gem behind it.
Yeah.
And then I did add a couple more in Journal too, just because they were really flashy. And I remember watching actually Dram do a low percent run in Star World 4. There was like a really cool trick with doing 2 shells, and I was like, wow, that looks really cool. But I didn't know how hard it was, but I think I just put it in anyways.
Put it in there.
Yeah, I do have to ask, because go
Dram 2 has some like crazy visual levels in that one for sure.
The first thing I think of is that like kind of like Ghost Housey one. It's like a forest with mist, and you have the 3 or 4 different color shells, and you're going really fast, and you like drop bump them. Do you remember what level that is? That's a good level. That one's really flashy with shells.
Oh yeah.
It's near the end, right? It's over the bridge or whatever.
Yeah, it's near the end.
So we've seen a couple deaths on. What makes this Bowser fight tough? Because it looks challenging.
It's literally the vanilla fight with these stupid RNG Eries around it. That is literally all it is. And there are certain patterns for this too that I definitely prefer more than others. And but yeah, I mean, this is just the regular original fight. Now, it's also the only place you actually get power-ups, which is kind of funny too. But it's just the Eries make it so dang difficult because they're just, you can't go to the corners, you know, you can't go hide in the corners, and you're trying to do ball skip, which is, you know, that's like a normal vanilla move that you do, save some time on Bowser. Yeah, normal vanilla time save on Bowser, but it's just a pain with these Eries just flopping around everywhere. So yeah.
Penga, as a developer, is there do you test the amount of different Eries that you have on screen to find the right balance? Like, how do you get to this point? You know,
I feel like he didn't care. He just threw them in, and he was like, whatever.
Part of me didn't care. I knew it would be well balanced. I mean, I obviously played this just to make sure it'd be good, but Kaizo 2 actually did this exact same fight. It's just they made it water. So
Yeah.
I had a basis around it. So I'm just like, what if I just don't put water? And it found out to be yeah, it's still a good challenge.
It absolutely is,
Yeah.
man. It goes on.
Yeah, it's a super fun fight. I really enjoyed that fight still. Like, even to this day, I still enjoy that fight.
And I think that's going to be it on that. That's great. This is, you know, it's one of those runs that I'm never ever going to forget. Primarily for seeing so many of the
Same.
Mario folks on the stream and everything at the same time. It's really, you can just, it's one of those steps of seeing the progression of where we're going to eventually lead up to after the break here. And I guess let me first by saying we're going to cut Dram loose for the next one. But Dram, there's been a lot of comments in the chat and a lot of people just thankful for the things that you did early on in your career that got us all interested and excited to play these games. So first of all, a very big thank you. And then secondly, I mean, do you plan to still play something? Do you still find any joy in doing the ROM hacks or the speed runs or anything like that?
In terms of playing the games, I don't know if the real answer is if I ever feel like it again, I would.
Right.
But at the moment, I just don't have the time. But Pan guys, I will play through Dram World. I think I've gotten mostly through it, but I will maybe 2025. I'll get through it.
All right, there's hope.
That's my commitment.
Yeah, he's waiting for the trilogy to be finished before he goes. You know.
Yeah,
Which I respect. You know, I respect that.
Exactly. It's like binge watching a good series. It's just what I'm doing.
Yeah, gotta wait.
It's
Well,
fair.
it's absolutely.
Dram, if you ever watch this run, actually, right here, I'm doing like a big monologue about how you inspired me. So, yeah, if you ever do go back watch that run, you might. I always appreciate that. You have no idea.
I might tear up.
Yeah, you might. You might.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy because honestly, like I had said, Jeff W. 356 inspired me, and then I just decided, hey, I'll submit it to GDQ, and it was just, I guess, chance that a lot of people saw it. So yeah, it's pretty great how this all kind of, you know, what happened after that.
Well, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for taking the time and reliving some of these moments with us. I know we wouldn't be here today if it weren't for you and some of the things you did. So thank you, truly. And for everyone else, we're going to take a quick break here. But when we come back, we're going to finish up with Grand Poo World 2 from SGDQ 2019. Don't go anywhere. We got one more run, and we'll be right back after this. And welcome back to Games Done Classic. My name is Lat Mackey, and this is where we look back at legendary GDQ moments with the legends that made them happen. Today's episode has been all about Kaizo and fan-made Mario games. If you're just joining us here on Twitch, yes, we are live. We are watching these things in real time with you, reliving those moments with the people that made them happen. And here's what a lot of this has been leading up to, and this is Grand Poo World 2, run by Mitch Flower Power, but with on the couch. I think the couch is kind of important to mention in this run because the creator of the game, once again, is on the couch getting a chance to make commentary and stuff like that. Thanks all for coming back here and watching this again. The first question has to be, Pooh, what does it feel like to have a game named after you? How cool is that?
I mean, it is really cool because, I mean, just for the idea of, like, you know, seeing Dram's run, right? And then I play a game named after Dram. And then later on, a game named after me is being played there. That is a very, you know, you have a full circle moment, I guess, and it is very, very cool. And I'll never, what do I want to say? I'll never not be humbled by that. Just the idea of that happening. Yeah, it's very much beyond my wildest dreams. You know what I mean?
So I guess for those who don't know, and I can't imagine anybody doesn't at this time, but let's just set the stage a little bit. Who created this game, and you know what makes this game so unique and different to things we had seen before as far as Kaizo and fan-made games up to this point?
Good run, Mitch.
Oh, well, I mean, it's okay. It's made by Barb, actually, Barbarous King. And this hack is just like it leads on after Grand Prix World 1. I think it's like a separate island, right? Close.
Yeah,
to the
it's
same
like you
island.
escape. Yeah, there's loose lore that Barb claims doesn't exist, but definitely exists. It definitely exists in his hack. But yeah, it's like you escape the island from Grand Prix World 1 on a. Oh, look at that freestyle move right there, Mitch.
I know, I've never done that before.
That's like the early GDQ mess up, you know what I mean? Like the nerves mess up, and then you still saved it. You saw us all react in the back too. Yeah, it's like you get on a boat at the end of Grand Prix World 1, and then the boat crashes into the Grand Prix World 2 island, and that's the lore. And yeah, and then you go about your business. Yeah.
So essentially, like what makes it different too is that he's actually flooded it with some very unique custom things. And I'm not a Super Mario World guy, so I don't know if these are custom things that he invented with his, with the team or anything. That's besides the point. But what's interesting is like how he created his bosses, when the bosses are introduced, and the gimmicks of the levels that he uses these custom things with, and it just makes it such a memorable thing. And like Pooh was saying, the non-lore that he says isn't there, that totally is there, because Grand Prix 3 is coming, right? And he's like, even the secrets and the way he does this, he's got like some Dark Souls things going on with the way you and his map, and you can see Grand Prix World 1 like on the edge of the map, don't listen to Barb.
Yeah, like on the overworld, you can see the overworld of Grand Prix World 1, so Mario didn't even make it that far on his boat. And then like even for the teaser for Grand Prix World 3 he's put out, it's like Mario's fat, he has a beard, and he's like in like
in the
some snowy
mountains.
land. Yeah, so it's like this lore that he claims doesn't exist, but totally he's got lore in his mind that exists. I think he doesn't want to say it because then it would ruin the lore I have in my mind or the lore we all are making up. Which is
I like how he lets us all.
It is. It's just very. It is very very cool. And but something that like Grand Prix World, just to like extrapolate on Mitch saying, like something that makes this like so cool too is you can tell the this is in not just a post Dram world era of Kaizo ROM hacks, which like I do really think like Dram world was the beginning of playable Kaizo ROM hacks and like getting people to like really love them and fall in love with them, because a lot of people definitely fell in love with Dram world after that. But this is the post Dram world led to Invictus, and Invictus was made by Cook, and that brought a lot of what we call chocolate features. So things that aren't in the vanilla game, essentially, that are hard-coded in by creators. I forgot you were going for this, Mitch.
Oh, yeah.
In this run, Mitch is going for a strat that's just, like, stupid difficult.
Yeah,
I'm sure someone else has done this, but up to this point, Mitch had been the only one that did this. God, it would have been so cool.
It's so silly. Dude, if it would have worked, that would have been so good. I feel like getting to this point was still cool, but like I got the bad cycle, so it's like...
Yeah.
Mitch, you mentioned this, and this question is actually for Panga. Panga, was there anybody else involved in the making of your Super Dram World besides you?
No major people, but Kaizo Man, the person that tested it, he helped me with just some like minor quality of life things.
Barb is definitely the reason this game exists, but you mentioned a team, and so there's custom music, there are these custom ideas. What are we seeing in these Kaizo games at this point?
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what I was given, like the post Invictus world, like now at this point, people are putting a lot of ASM code and easy to implement features up on SMW Central. We're getting before where Kaizo Man was like the only one you could go to. Now there's 3, 4, 5 people that are adding things in all the time and just putting it up there for free. And Barb's playing a lot of ROM hacks throughout this time, and he's taking like, oh, I see this one little thing that was using this one little level of this other hack. This can make a whole level out of this. You know what I mean? And he's while he definitely tries to keep it, and I don't want to speak for him or anything, but it definitely obviously he's trying to keep it very vanilla. He definitely adds in some chocolatey features when it's fun.
He's so good at making chocolate vanilla, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Right? He's like I know in Grand Pro 3 he's making some like bubble level, but I know it's gonna feel natural when I play it. But it's gonna be hard, but it'll feel natural. It's weird.
Yeah, he does a really good job of making, like, they don't feel like they weren't in the original game. They feel like they're things that would like naturally be in a sequel, which is really, really exciting. Like nothing's just like jarring out of nowhere. It all fits into the universe, which is very hard to do. But it also like, I mean, he spent
over a year.
I think it was like a year and a half maybe on this, just making this game, and a lot of time. I think his overall like creation time was close to 2,000 hours on this game alone.
He also messed up the release date too. Remember, it was supposed to come out I think in a February or March or something, right? And he had to extend it by a month. I think.
Which I was really glad he did, because I had my baby. My first day back actually on stream was the day this came out. So it's really funny because Barb was going to release it like. Yeah, dude, Barb was gonna release it like a week after I had my kid, and I was like, dude, you're killing me on this, man, because I can't not play this game named after me, and I just had a baby, and thankfully he gave me 3 weeks. Yeah, he gave me an extra couple weeks. So shout out to him. I you know what, he says he didn't do that because of my baby, but I like to believe he's just a really nice guy and did do that.
This is why he doesn't give us lore, because we all believe bro.
I know. I shout out to him. I'll always believe he cared enough about me and my child to do that.
I'm glad you brought that up, Pooh, because they're as close as I think we can get to in our community. This felt like a AAA release almost. It seemed like everyone who streams or speedruns fan-made and Kaizo games were definitely playing this game when it came out, and everyone was trying to break it at the same time. I mean, it seemed like the entire Mario community was playing this game. And so, first of all, how'd you avoid any spoilers? But then secondly, did you have that? It seemed like a community experience, like everyone was playing it.
Definitely a community experience, and I mean, I was lucky that I wasn't like I think Mitch and Glitchcat and Penga, talk about community experience. They had a night where they did a group stream to figure out the final puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was. Yeah, and so I got to the puzzle. I think it was like the next day. So it was like after that I had to be in emote only mode because the information was out there. But yeah, that was very cool. Like I went back later on and watched what they were doing. That was super cool.
Mitch, we've talked about throughout the entire show now about you breaking games and finding strats and things like that. What this game has, I can only say an extremely challenging puzzle towards the end of the game. What was your approach? It takes so much time. I feel like it's a good time to talk about it now because the speedrun kind of just avoids the whole thing. So what exactly happens towards the end of this game, and how do you find how to beat it?
So, well, I don't want to spoil any of the puzzles, but I think everyone in the community had actually stumbled upon something on their own first. So there was a part of the puzzle, like the anagram, right? I didn't even know. I didn't even find that. But what I had found was Pooh's portrait, but nobody had found Pooh's portrait. So I was caught in a situation. I had messaged Barb too, and I was like, I don't know what to do because nobody's found Pooh's portrait. But do I stream? Because if I stream, then everyone's gonna say that, you're right, I found it, and then Panga would be forced to know and stuff. So we actually just decided to come together and work together, and we just work from there, right?
Yeah, it was something like that. Like we were the first three to beat the game, and thankfully,
and we did it together.
Yeah, thankfully, like the people that playtested, they didn't spoil anything. They might have given subtle hints, but we spent maybe like four-ish hours. I remember because I stayed up until like 8 a.m. trying to find them with these guys.
Yeah, well, to put it in context, essentially what it was is like everyone found little bits and pieces, and where we all came together on a new experience was when we hit the escape room. We went into the escape room all together at the same time, and we waited for each other. I think I was actually the last one because I couldn't friggin'
Oh yeah.
because yeah, you guys waited for like an hour because I couldn't get back to the escape room because I was trying to beat the level.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and then we all entered it together, and it wasn't the end. And we didn't
Yeah,
know that.
It was far from the end.
Yeah,
It felt like the end. There was so much more.
Right? So we're looking around the escape room. Panga's like, well, I found a spring here. What's this? So we all go and we all look at the spring, right? And then we're all in the other room. We're like, well, what does this mean? And then, yeah, that was really cool.
Had any other Kaizo or Fame games like had that in a game before, or is this one of the first times we've seen that? I'm curious.
Like this, the first time for sure. There's Kaizo hacks out there that have like inside one level is like a crazy puzzle. I'm pretty sure. I think doesn't Kaizo 3
Yeah.
have that? Like a ship room or whatever. It's like a lot of back and forth. I can't remember, but these guys would know more than me.
No, yeah, there's been like normal like in-game Mario puzzles. Like Kaizo 3 has a really famous one, but nothing like this one where it was kind of like in an escape room style. And then this goes back to the what we were talking about with like building things specifically for people. I'm obsessed with escape rooms, and Barb knew that, and so that was one of the reasons why I put it in there. And even to the point, not to do any spoilers, but one of the codes is actually my birthday, or that one of the final codes that you get it. And so that's like such like a detail of like when I found that detail out, I broke down because like that's so special. Like that to me, that's like such a special little thing that Barb put in. And I always joke that like Barb's not an emotional guy. He's the type of guy that spends 2,000 hours
He has
building
a cat.
it.
He's emotional.
Yeah,
He's got a cat.
he'll never tell you that he loves you. He shows you by giving you a video game and putting in a super special puzzle that he knows you love. You know what I mean? Like, and then when you say thank you, he'll be like, "Oh, shut the fuck up." You know what I mean? That's just the type of guy he is. He's an incredible, thoughtful guy, and I think you see that in his level design, and also just the fact that he would do something like that.
I do have to say, it's a pretty cool mechanic that the way that you have to beat the game is to stalk the person who it's named after. But it's a nice point.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even realize it. What's funny is I did it, and I didn't even realize it was my birthday because I was so excited I was progressing. And so it wasn't until after I passed Bowser that he was like, "Hey, I don't know if you noticed, but that was your birthday." And I went back and looked at my notes, and I was like, "Holy F," like that's so cool.
Pig, I'm curious about your first playthrough of this game because you're at this point, Dram and Dram 2 had been done and created, and you're still playing these games. What was like your experience seeing a game on this kind of scale and this kind of level for you on your first playthrough?
Not gonna lie, I was taking notes on the side. But no, the first playthrough, I remember I was just playing it, and I was like, wow, this is pretty good, and I can see Barb's like his creativity and his style. Since most people that create hacks, as one of them, we all have a specific type of style, and for my style, I like to inspire my level design from others. So as I played, I just kept thinking to myself, these are some cool ideas that maybe I could potentially use in another one if I want to make. And
That's what it's
very
about,
much,
man.
yeah, I very much enjoyed it. It had good difficulty because it wasn't too hard, wasn't too easy. And then when we got to the lore part, I was just thinking to myself, maybe I could do lore as well. But no,
I definitely saw a difference in the way you played this versus the way I've watched you play other hacks, and even Mario Maker levels. There was a slight difference in like how I feel like how you enjoyed it when you played it. You were more prone to like waking up, let's go, I don't know how many hours, and then stopping, and then starting again. So.
Oh yeah, for some reason I was determined to like be the first one to beat it, just for like a self goal.
But I mean, if you didn't enjoy it, I don't think you'd be so inclined to be like that,
true.
right?
It was it was very enjoyable.
So Mitch, I got to throw this at you. You you've done a lot of Super Mario Brothers 3 speedrunning in your time. You had done some Mario World stuff at this point, but probably not spent the amount of time with that you had with Mario 3. What's it like playing a game like this? You know, that's kind of different from your normal thing.
This was a really weird run for me because I'm not a Super Mario World guy, but I had been running this since it came out, and then Panga was going insane. So at the very start, I think it was Panga and I who was throwing back and forth in the high 50 minutes for the world record, and like he just couldn't give me a break. And I think the Mario 3 part of me kind of came out and was like, if it took me a week to get it and then he got it in a day, that would be, I obviously wouldn't be mad at him, but I'd be frustrated and like, am I not that good? So I don't know, it just pushed me, right? It's like he was always able to just beat the record in like an hour after I got it or something. So we would just toss it back and forth. So I don't know, it's just like, I don't know, it's just kind of how it works. I guess that would work for any game if we all played them just the way you perceive it.
I was gonna say the first like 3 months, I think, or like 6 or 7 different people had the record at different points, and I think 3 of us had all 3 records at different points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was more so referring to the 50-minute mark when we hit that.
Yeah, I think Panga was the first one to get all 3 categories all at once.
Yeah.
And Panga never sticks with
then
speedruns.
I was like, oh, I want to do that, you know. So yeah, and it was definitely a long war, I'd say, that went through summer between, I mean, Noble Tofu was in it. I mean, just so many players that were just going ham. I
was really shocked when I got this run in GDQ. So I assumed that when they went through the verification process, I was the one who had the record at the time. I would guess, but because I wasn't a Super Mario World guy, I always felt like I didn't earn my in. You know, because like all these guys are like they're just so good at Super Mario World, and then I was like kind of new to it, so this run was very stressful for me because I felt like if I didn't do good, I didn't earn it. So like I overstressed and like overpracticed. It was dumb the amount.
I think the day the list came out, you had this category, Panga had bad ending, and I had 100%, and I think that's what it was, and I think that's what we all submitted to, which is funny. Yeah.
So if you haven't yet, do yourself a favor and watch this run at some point with the commentary, because Barb and Pooh and the commentary is I forget who else is on the couch. I can't see it in this small Tofu. There we go. It's really insightful and behind the scenes. But there is something that we just saw, and I'm curious if things like this had been done up at this point. Like your controls got reversed. Had we seen that in a Mario World game before?
I think that's been in a hack before. I don't think this is brand new, right?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. I don't think any. Outside of the bosses, I'm pretty sure none of this is like, was brand new, made for the hack. Like the ASM patches, they're all things that, and I could be wrong about this. That's something Barb can answer obviously a lot better than us. But I'm pretty sure all of it was stuff he saw in other smaller hacks. I mean, to Barb's credit, just like Panga gets inspired, he plays a tremendous amount of ROM hacks. He really, really does. Played way more, significantly more than I ever have. And he definitely gets inspired and takes notes. And when something like really catches his eye, I think he thinks about putting it in another level later on.
So, Mitch, coming from, you mentioned that you hadn't done a lot of Mario World stuff. What are the things that really make this game challenging for you then, as a runner?
Swapping between spin jump and not spin jump, and getting comfortable with regrabs. I did do a lot of work with Super Dram World, so I got comfortable with stuff like that, but I never even came close to taking it serious like this. So when I got my run in, I sort of had like a panic attack because I didn't know if I could comfortably get good at this game with this skill level in the amount of time that I had. You only have a couple months once you get accepted or whatever. So yeah, the swapping on the D-pad getting you, because the SNES controller's kind of dog bone-ish, the NES controller's square, so my little finger, what do you want to call them, like rivets that you get from your controller, they're different, so it's, yeah, it was a rough go.
I gotta ask, I've heard this term a lot, and now I know what it is, but it took me a while. What exactly is a regrab? And it's one of those things that seems to make Mario World somewhat unique in what it does.
regrab it has a weird name because that has nothing to do with what Mario's actually doing. It's what you're doing with your fingers, and essentially what it is when you jump in the air, Mario will fall slower or faster depending if you're holding the jump button while you're falling after you jump. So in certain situations in Mario hacks, you want to jump, and then at a precise time you want to re-grab the jump button while you're falling to make a certain jump. That would really only work if you do the re-grab. And Mario 3 doesn't have anything like that. Not even close. Well, Super Orb Bros does.
One of the things as a viewer I've noticed about this game is like how many levels and kind of how all of them are punishing. And I wondered if that plays into making the, because you mentioned, we've all mentioned, like there's not a ton of RNG in this game. It's a lot about just being on your game for the whole thing. This game seems quite long. It's been way longer than what we saw in Dram World.
Yeah.
And does that play into the difficulty?
I mean, it's extreme. Yeah, it's got a lot of levels. They're all really good. Some of the levels are really, really long levels too. But I mean, I think like because it's so fair, it's weird. It's definitely not easy. It's not an easy game, but like there's nothing that's like say as hard as like Dram's butthole in it. You know what I mean? All the levels are definitely levels that you could one shot. You know.
He's got like a reputation to the way he designs as well. If he made something like Dram's Butthole, people weren't expecting something like that from him, so I feel like he wouldn't have done that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, he's just it is just long. It is a very long run, and that's part of what makes it such a difficult Kaizo speedrun is that it's very long. I mean, even after you defeat the last boss, which is an incredibly difficult boss, and let's say you one-shot it, well, then you have an escape portion, which is, you know, it's not compared to everything you've done is incredibly easy, but it's still a very difficult escape portion. And you're in a situation where, you know, you might be on a world record pace with your heart beating after you just did an incredibly difficult fight. It does feel like it keeps on going, you know. I remember even saying that when I played the escape the first time. I was just like, it's not over, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of it not being over, here's what I think. Is this the first mini boss in the game or the first, you know, halfway boss? Like this is, I'd never seen anything like this. This is really cool seeing something like this. What's going on with this boss? Like it's kind of out of his world.
Chuck Norris. Yeah, charging Chuck Norris.
How many hits?
None of us had ever seen anything like this when we first played this boss.
Yeah, this is a very custom boss.
Yeah,
I think Kaizo Man made it, right?
Yeah, I think Kaizo Man did make this and the final boss as well. Yeah, I mean, this blew my mind the first time I saw this.
Yeah, so this kind of shows you the post-Dram era where people are starting to mix chocolate with vanilla since this guy is in the original game, but what he does is completely new and it's refreshing.
Yeah, exactly. And as they said, like Kaizo Man made this, so it's like now ROM hacks are getting to the point where you want to get a couple people kind of on your team, I guess. It would be a good way to put it so that you can make some of the ideas that Barb wouldn't be able to do, or like if there's any custom music and stuff like that. Like the hacks nowadays are just insane.
Yeah, I mean now I think it used to be like what's available, and now it almost feels like what's your imagination want. And,
right? Talk to Kaizo,
you know,
man. What do you want?
Yeah, and if you're someone as respected as like Barb or Penga, you know what I mean? If they have an idea that they want, because you know they're considered such. Yeah, they're considered the guys in my opinion, in my mind, that you know anyone in our little community is going to bend over backwards to help with that particular project, which definitely helps, you know. But that didn't come without, you know, putting out amazing stuff, you know.
Oh, here it is, the console crash in the run.
Yeah, I was about to say. So this is he's playing on a Grand Prix World 2 cartridge that he just had gotten. And it crashed, and the first thing I did was make sure everyone knew it wasn't me.
Yeah, he put his legs up. Yeah.
Well, I do want to ask about this because it's come up in the chat a couple times. Are you running these games on original consoles? And as you just mentioned, you absolutely are. So, I mean, first of all, this is how badly did that suck, Mitch? When that actually happened?
I mean, it did suck. Obviously, like I didn't care that it happened as long as we could restore it. I totally forgot that it's had a save file, right? Mario 3 background.
Don't have that in Mario 3, so.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, there's my run off stage.
See you later.
But because it kept happening, that's when I got really scared. I was like, it's either the cartridge, and if it's the cartridge, we can't continue, right? Because that's how it is. That's how we do things at GDQ, which is good. But it turned out to be the Super Nintendo, so thank goodness.
I can't remember who knew actually that there was a different version type for the console. Like it wouldn't work with one console or not. Like who was aware of that?
I don't think anyone actually knew. I think Barb was just like, "Yo, what if it's the SNES?"
Yeah, I don't think anybody. I don't think we were the only other logic the only other solution we had was we were going to grab like another cart or like an SD card or something that had like one of ours that had a full save file on it, so Mitch could just go back.
Oh, nice.
That's to smart. That level and play if he wanted. But I mean that would have taken away some like overworld animation.
Yeah. So with the version differences that we experienced with other hacks as well, is that Barb had two different versions. One where like the Bowser was kind of like broken. And like I was so nervous for this run, I was like, Barb, man, you gotta let me run on the original version so I can just like cheese Bowser. And he's like, no, man, you got it. I was like, no, I can't do it. I'm too nervous, man. I can't handle it. He's like, yeah, you'll be fine. And I was so scared. But sure enough, I was fine. I ended up doing pretty good.
I think that's kind of it.
Panga's over here changing games for me, and Barb's like, suck it up. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly made me think of that.
Moral of the story, run a Panga game, I guess.
Yeah, easy fix. But no, I remember specifically asking him like if it would be a bad idea or if whatever. But he really didn't want Bowser to be cheese live for this, and I respect that.
That's something I think kind of important and interesting, though, is that quite often you're not playing on your own consoles or your own hardware. There are many different consoles that GDQ has available to them and everything, and quite often they want specific looks and things like that. So it's interesting that you're not playing on your Super Nintendo. This is GDQ's Super Nintendo. So
yeah, the only thing you get is like your weapon, right? Your controller. That's it.
Yeah, and I mean not to add like to anything, but the whole. Like speedrunning is such a like repetition thing. So when you're up there sitting in a chair that's not your chair, playing on a TV that's not your normal TV, not your
in
size,
a room that's
not
your
normal
temperature,
TV size.
Right? Like
yeah, like all a different length away from the TV, different lights in your face, like all those things. When what you're doing is something that is based in repetition and everything being the same every time. It's actually really hard. And I think that's always going to be like this underlying difficulty factor in every single marathon run that every single live marathon run. I guess right now it's totally non-existent, but every single live marathon run that like this underrated thing that makes it just that much more difficult. And especially in Kaizo games where you want to do everything down to the pixel every single time, it really adds to it. Yeah.
I actually wonder if you guys would agree with me that my biggest thing is the not my headphones. I don't know why.
Oh God, I hate it.
That's my thing. They're heavy. The GDQ headphones aren't bad or anything. It's just it's not mine, right? And that's the point you were trying to make. Like you're out of your zone. And for me, it's the headphones for sure.
Yeah. They sound different. There's people talking in your head. They're heavy. They have those big old wires on them. The headphones are actually kind of hard to deal with.
I'm glad you brought that up because, as a speedrunner, if I see an enemy move slightly different, it's like a big deal. And one of my GDQ runs, the screen pops, turns off. And it's funny how we have to think through some of those things because that's so abnormal. But you're just by sitting on that couch or sitting on that chair, you're in an environment that is not normal to the way you're so used to your repetition existing. So that's such a really good point.
Being at GDQ, if you're playing any game or doing any kind of impressive thing with game, having somebody right in front of you in your vision distracting you is it's not that bad. But the peripheral distractions are so much bigger when it comes to speedrunning. Like something just zooms in the side of your eye and that will mess everything up. But somebody right in front of you, you won't probably mess up. And when you're in a place like GDQ, you got a lot of movement going on the left and right. So it's it's crazy.
There's a funny comment in chat. I do have to say that even back then, before COVID and everything, they were sanitizing the headsets after every run. It was even back then we were still, it's take care of the.
Honestly, and I'm not embarrassed to say this, my nerves hit me sometimes so hard when I do GDQ runs. I specifically remember Pooh Bear after one of our runs. He's like, "Man, you gotta you got to find some deodorant or something, because it's just like it's a true thing, man. And once you're up there, you're up there. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
it's warm up there. You're nervous, you know, and it's just the way it is. And like I don't get like that at home. What are you talking about? Like I maybe sweat a bit, but I'm not like, you know, getting
It's kind of
distracted with left and right, big
different.
headphones, stinking it up, right?
It's interesting to point out up until this point, and even continuing after this, your run is going really well for this one, Mitch. It's one of the most impressive runs I think I've seen at a GDQ, to be honest with you. The level of skill and stuff. And I'm wondering if you had you had any practice runs that had gone better than this, or was this pretty like this was where you were at? Tell us a little bit about the practice.
No, this was my best run I probably had done this week. It would have been much faster if I didn't look at portraits or do the crash, because the timer kept going on the crash. It was going to be like a sub 1 hour run, I think it was, something like that, 50 something. But yeah, the result of this run again is that same thing that we talked about back in 2014, about the amount of pressure that I just throw on myself, and feeling like I'm not in the Super Mario World community. I just push myself. I probably pushed myself a little too hard, because like these guys are trying to have fun, and I'm so like deer caught in the headlight. I'm like, if I don't nail these speedrun strats, everyone's gonna hate me. But like everyone just want to have fun. So like, Barb and Pooh were great for a lot of the parts in this run, because they'd say things. They know I don't like to talk much because I'm nervous. And then when I hear that they ask me like, oh, check this out, then I know it's okay and I don't have to worry about it, right? Like your couch is literally your like team. It's really helpful. They really helped me.
For the record, I was not nervous for Mitch at all. I knew he would freaking slay it. You know,
you guys look really comfortable sitting on the couch. By the way,
he's so good, and the Mario World community fully understands that he would crush all of us if he, you know, didn't already have a lover. So he doesn't need to worry about that part at all. You know what I mean? Like, and that, you know what? I think that goes for pretty much every community out there. Like, if Mitch starts playing Mega Man, you're all done. Like you're done. You're out. Like, so get over it. You know what I mean? You guys just be lucky he's obsessed with Mario 3, because he's saving all of the records could be his.
Too kind.
There's something I wanted to bring up. So Relkun, who's producing this show and makes this happen, he's the tech behind everything you're seeing right now. He was actually saying, as GDQ staff, that sometimes they know to match up specific hardware with games depending on the issues and things like that. And not sure if anybody was aware, like you guys mentioned it, not sure if they were even aware of if this issue happened before. So, you know, that's one of the things they do try hard to get. So you're getting the right hardware for the right game and everything like that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything we had saw before. And I also think the decision to play on that cartridge was a pretty late one too, though. Yeah, like, because the cartridge had just shown up, and before he was going to play on like what's called an FX pack now. So
yeah.
I just don't think we had ever seen that crash before happen.
Oh yeah.
So
that's it. Okay. It was. Sorry to cut you off. It was just so happened that Barb had and brought his card. That's all it was, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, because I was asked, hey, do you guys have a card of this? And I was like, I don't have a card. I don't think Barb had really released any, right? And if he did, I don't think any of us brought it, unless I'm thinking wrong. I don't know. But regardless, I used his cartridge. So whenever it crashed, the first thing I did was look at him. I was like, it's your fault.
What's going on?
And we've like my Dram 1 was on a specific Dram 1 cartridge, but my Dram 2 run, because they used the same save file for the taskbot afterwards. I was going to use a cartridge there, but I ended up using the SD card for it. And that's when I was lucky I did, because then I could have Penga change it for me. Yeah, so generally though, in my experience, most people, like, especially when they're having a GDQ run with it, they'll get a cart made for them, just because it's an experience. You get to have people sign it, you know what I mean? Like, at that point, it's
I always say that, man, if you're gonna go to a GDQ, just absorb the whole experience.
Yeah.
You gotta do it.
This came up in the chat a while ago, and I think it's kind of a good question as we're watching just more incredibleness happen on the screen here. If somebody wants to try out, a Kaizo or a ROM hack, or a fan-made game like this, where's a good place to start? Because this looks like it's like the epitome. This looks like the most challenging game ever. Where's a good place to start in Kaizo or fan-made?
I mean, go to SMW Central. And,
Yeah, SMW Central.
Yeah, and now there's a couple learning hacks. I mean, Penga made, to me, every Kaizo player should play it brand new.
That's the one I recommend to everyone
Yeah.
first.
Kaizo Kindergarten. It has it definitely has some mid-chapter mid-chapter tests that are difficult, but
Oh yeah,
I
it's
think
pretty
after
hard.
yeah, but I think
like-
after playing Kaizo, like the thing with Kaizo Kindergarten that I love, so Penga made a training hack. That was the last hack he made. It's so incredible. It has visuals for everything, but it doesn't just tell you how to do things. It tells you why those things happen. And something that I think that really separates good Kaizo players from great Kaizo players is understanding why those things happen too. That to me is like the epitome. Oh my, this Yoshi landing on it is hilarious. That to me is like the epitome of the best training hack, you know, in my opinion. So that's a good place to start. And then there's Quickie World.
Yeah, that's where I recommend.
Yeah, Quickie World's a good one to play once you finish learning.
Which has been at a GDQ. So hopefully for a part 2, we can dig into some of those because there's so many wonderful fan-made games that we could do a bunch of episodes on this. You know, Penga? So I'm curious. Since you know Dram 1 and Dram 2, have you worked with other folks in developing, and does it change the process at all when you're working with others?
So Dram 2, I did work with a couple more people. I did have I think I had a few playtesters for that, and for future games, I do want to have more people working with me, since I've come to realize that you just can't do everything yourself. Like, I don't know how to code well, so if you want to do extra things in these games, you probably have to consult people. And then music too. People love the music, and I kind of didn't really put any music in my hacks, so those two things I think could make a big change in the atmosphere. And
They
then
really do.
yeah, and then I do want to have more play testers, since having more people get different perspectives on different areas is pretty huge, because you might not think of something that someone else would. And I've actually considered making a level with Barb. I'm not sure if we'd actually do that, but yeah, like we talked about collabing. Same with Link Dead. So there might be some more potential for collaborations.
Collab hack.
Yeah.
Penga collab hack, dude. I love that idea. Penga and Barb have made levels too at a charity event we do called MMC in Mario Maker.
Oh yeah,
But we
that's
make
on
them
your
do it. Yeah,
that's
make
on
them
your
do it
Switch.
like. Yeah, they have to do it in like an hour, and chat gets to like donate to tell them what they put in the level,
Yeah,
which is
that's
really funny.
so funny.
It's really funny to see it come out, but like to see like what they pump out in an hour is like it was incredible.
It's pretty stressful too.
Yeah. And
That's fun, though.
yeah, speaking of that, Dan VP actually added a bunch of custom music to Dram 1
That's right.
for me, because one of the reasons I was struggling to go back was I hate the original Mario music at this point. I'm just between years and
Yeah, you need some jams,
yeah, years
right?
and years of Mario Maker and just, you know, and everything. Like I just hated it. I couldn't stand it anymore. So they pumped that out for me. I think he asked you before he did it, Peng, because I was very specific. He had to do that.
Yeah, no, it was perfectly fine. It's something I do
Yeah.
want to do more, since I do
Yeah.
like some of the music that people make,
Music's
especially-
hard because you have to capture an atmosphere that I think that everyone agrees on, and it's hard to do that without releasing it and seeing how people experience it. I don't know how Barb did so well with all the music. He had I can't remember the name. You know,
Composer.
Composer.
Dan the VP did
Yeah.
the vast majority of music. And there's even some custom tracks. There's, I think, 2 or 3 levels that have like
Yeah, House of
custom tracks.
Undying is one.
Yeah.
And another one.
I think Bowser's actually a custom track, but
Yes.
I could be wrong. Again, Barb would know all this. I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned. We keep mentioning it over and over again, but about this community that comes together to make these games. And as somebody who keep asking in the chat, hey, how do I get involved in some of this stuff? Well, I've had a chat with Composer, and he was saying, I just went into Discord and started talking, you know, asking people questions. And it's amazing what you'll find and what you can connect on, and similar interests and things like that, just by asking people. It's one thing I've noticed about this community is a lot of people like to talk to each other about the games that they like, you know. So
Yeah,
it's one of those cool
I feel
things.
like that's the concept you can apply to like so many aspects of just like
Yeah.
life in general. Like just go and talk, yeah.
But especially if like you have something that, you know, you have a skill that you haven't seen being utilized or offered yet. You know what I
Give
mean?
and
Like,
take, right?
yeah, it's so, you know, it's something that like if you know like, oh, I could help and contribute this, like it's totally, you know, everyone's open, and I think the other thing is like the Kaizo, like as far as like a gaming community or speedrun community, it is still very new and in its infancy stage. So like nothing's set. You know, new people pop up all the time. Like new creators pop up all the time. We're just like, whoa, where's this guy been? This hack's so incredible. Like amazing. Like, you know.
You mentioned it earlier. I remember when Invictus came out, and everyone was asking who is Just Cook. There was this. It's great that somebody could have such a big impact. Who you all hadn't had a chance. He doesn't live in the States, so nobody, and here in the States we hadn't had a chance to hang out with him or anything like that. So it's kind of cool what you can see, what can happen in the community.
Yeah, and we like us Mario Maker guys knew him because he had been pretty deep into that. But yeah, I mean, I think that really cemented Invictus. And I think Invictus was Dram was like the first shift, and then Invictus was like the next evolution of it. You know what I mean? Dram's like the pinnacle moment of like these games are playable, and then Invictus was like that next like evolutionary step for sure. And then since then, I just think like the quality of hacks is just insane. And this, I mean, just even this year in 2021, the amount of really, really, really high quality like hacks is just really high now, And like you said, like Grand Prix World 2 felt like a AAA release, and that's how a lot of these feel now.
Yeah. It's really kind of wild. Mitch, I got to ask you, as we're watching through this, are there any stages that you have found more challenging than others in this game?
Yeah, actually, the one, the secret to this level before Hanzo's, I was very, very nervous for, and it did end up, I think it killed me twice, was the falling level with the cobwebs.
Right.
With I think it's got the Batman music or something, and that level, there's levels that, like, it's weird as a speedrunner. There's levels that, like, naturally are not hard for anyone. We all get through them, but your perception on what you're doing makes it harder, if that makes sense. That level didn't need to be as hard as I made it, but it's just always been hard for me. Don't know why. Like, there's nothing in that level that I can't do. It's just, I can't do it. I don't know why. So that level always, this whole run, that was the only level I've stressed out about. No.
Do you have a favorite level in the run?
House of the Undying is really good, and this level is also really good, the red level, and then every other level is also really good. So yeah, I love them all. It's so hard to pick a favorite. I really can't.
I gotta ask the same questions to you too, Pooh, because I think I've seen you run this recently, if I remember, like a couple weeks ago or something. So, is there a level you ever get like tired of or anything like that?
This is my legit. This is my second favorite video game ever. So, no, I like across all games. Spelunky 2 is my favorite video game ever. Mario 3, which was my favorite at one point, is now dropped down to number 3.
It's got like 4 or 3 or 5 or something.
Yeah, it's dropped down to 3.
I'm not hurt.
Yeah, no, but yeah, this is just. You know what? It's a game that I'll never get bored of. The end boss fight is always like super fun and challenging, and always fun to react to. There's very few. There's not a level in this, like every speedrun I've ever had. There's like some times or gaps or like I'm like really bored of playing this. It just doesn't exist in this game.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
Yeah. It just doesn't exist in this game. I mean, Dram World 2 for me, it doesn't exist. Like I like every single level in that game as well. So
I find that there was something weird with this hat. Like it just hit at the right time. I don't know what happened because I don't play many Super Mario World hacks. I never played Invictus. I never played Quickie. I never played anyone's hacks. I barely gave Grand Prix World 1 a go. I think I got to like 4 levels, then tried to break it with like a key or something. I don't even know what happened. And then Grand Prix World 2 came out, and like it had to have hit me emotionally or something at the right time, and it just hit. I don't know why, and I agree with Pooh. This is definitely not only one of my favorite GDQ runs I've ever done, and one of the ones I'm most proud of, but this game is something that I absolutely love. I just spent like 100 hours protecting spoilers from Lack Attack in his stream so that he could preserve enjoying it just as much as I did. I spent 100 hours modding spoilers. And that's how much I love this game. I'll dedicate my time if there's another person who needs like a bodyguard I'm like, spoilers, because everyone deserves to enjoy this game the way that I did.
Yeah, it's one of those rare games where I will watch, like, if anyone's playing this for the first time, I'm gonna watch that. Especially if it's another speedrunner that I really, really love and is coming over to do it, because it's so much fun watching them, fall for the same things you fell for, and just getting through it. And it just flows real well. And watching the skill, it does a good way of this. It's so weird. This game, you never like get stuck on any one move in particular in this game. Usually, you're always having this constant state of progression. But then when you're done with a level, you realize, oh, that level took me an hour and a half, 2 hours, to beat. But you don't feel like that ever, which is very hard to do. It's very, very hard to do that. It's not easy.
So that's only the one place where I feel like I would separate with how Grand Poubert thinks about that, and that again goes towards my lack of experience with this game. I spent way too much time on the cape level because I just had little to no understanding on the cape, and I got stuck there forever because like I didn't even know how to slow down with it. I didn't know how to switch directions, and that's from lack of experience of Super Mario World and using cape.
So this is really funny though. This is really funny. And when I was doing speedruns of Grand Poo World 1, Barb made a cape level, and it was easily the easiest level in the game, like no doubt. The cape section was just like not even hard at all. So I titled my split for that level "Barb Can't Cape," and like that dude took it so personally. He took it so personally that he eventually, that he made the cape level in this game, which Mitch is coming up to right now, so hard and long and difficult and full of, slowing down and speeding up and all these other things. I mean, and I learned my lesson, I learned my lesson. So
I learned your lesson too.
Yeah, we all learned the lesson on that one.
I think that's one of those things too that makes, Penga, them games you've made, and also with this game as well, that you can still watch it today and still really enjoy it. You can still enjoy playing it. You mentioned Lack Attack, and I was watching the same thing with you. I've seen this game 100 times at this point. I know all the spoilers that are coming, and I was still on the edge of my seat watching somebody play it for the first time or trying it for the first time. And I think that says a lot to the testament to this game, to say the least.
Yeah.
Penga, I'm curious too, have you gone back, and have you ever gone back to maybe Dram World or gone back to Grand Poo World to play these games again, even, years later nowadays?
I think I did a Dram playthrough like a couple years ago just to see how much has changed between then and now. I can't remember if I think I played Grand Poo World 1. I've never beaten Grand Poo World 1. I stopped after the final boss. I forget why, but yeah, I think that's why I wanted to beat Grand Poo World 2 so fast, because I never beat the first one. But maybe one day I'll go back.
I fell off the Grand Poo World 1 as well after that whole key fiasco thing.
Yeah, but I can't remember if I have replayed Grand Poo World 2, but I would like to, because just watching this is giving me the nostalgic feel.
And we're watching
that's what I was doing too, right? Like I would watch it, and I did a couple levels here and there. It was fun. You're gonna love it.
I'm glad you guys brought up the cape stuff, because we're seeing literally almost every variation you can see of the cape in one level. Like this looks really tough.
Oh yeah, each section. Yeah. When I did this blind, each section for me was like 6 hours or something. Really, maybe not this one. I think this is the easiest section. But yeah, just too much for me.
Yeah, it was definitely like, oh, I can't cape. Look, I'm gonna do every cape trick that you can possibly do.
Yeah, Barb's like, if I can't cape, no one can, right? He just made this beast.
Yeah, the Super Mario World cape is very versatile.
Yeah.
And it's also risky, isn't it, to put in your hack, because it can break things. If you can bring it out as a level, you probably ruin the entire hack. And like, if you don't put the, remove items or whatever. I know there's a lot of weird things, right, in hacks where you can exit a level, but your power-up is small. Like in this one, right? You can't continue with it.
Yeah, cape does introduce potential cheese, but I think if you put it in a hack right, it's a ton of fun. It's a nice change in pace. Just being small the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever watched normal Mario World speedruns, you guys probably are aware of just like how incredibly powerful the cape is in Mario World. It's probably one of the most OP, power-ups in any video game when put in the right hands. But it is difficult to control. if you don't have a lot of time with it, because it's very sensitive, like the slow down and speed up things.
Oh, I'm good at it now, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it now.
I know you got good at it now. Exactly.
I'll never forget it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that
that's
the thing
how
you
it-
might? Go ahead, Poop.
For me, it was Dram 2. Like, I had never done Cape until Dram 2, and Dram 2 had 2 incredibly difficult Cape levels that took me forever because I was so bad at the Cape, because I only played Kaizo Mario World. I didn't play regular. And so that was like where I cut my teeth on Cape, and then mocked Barb for not doing that, and this is what we got.
Mitch, I was actually going to ask you, is that one of the things you maybe spent more time than other things in this game, is with the Cape stuff?
Maybe a little bit, because like Dram was saying with practice, I mean, you practice, and then eventually you're gonna hit a wall, and like this is, you know, you're running out of time, you hit a wall, you can't focus all your time on just doing it. So I spent a lot of time getting myself comfortable with this, but I don't think I would spend a lot of time on this where it's like 100 extra hours of practice before GDQ on this before anything else. It was pretty close to equally separated.
Pinga, there are some. Oh, good, Poop.
The one thing right here, there's a final troll, and it's those ropes you could fall through earlier in the level. And this troll, like watching everyone fall through those ropes, because if you run on that last rope, you just fall right through and die.
Yeah,
Like,
you don't even have to like jump over.
Yeah.
You can just walk, and I still jump over because I don't even want to get close to them.
If you ever watch, Barb has a video on YouTube of just like clips of like, you know, funny clips of people playing this game. But please, the part 3 of just watching every single player that played this game fall through that rope at the end is so funny, because every single player fell through that rope, you know.
Pink, I have to ask, because we've seen a few times now where there's been some really long falling sections. Are there any limits to the amount that you can develop a level and like how large it can be?
Technically, yes, but it's a very long length. Before, you used to only be able to do vertical or horizontal levels. Like there'd be a limit on how long or wide the level is. But recently, I think now you can make a level both long and wide. But there is still like a hard cap. Like eventually you'll run out of space. But I mean, that's not too much of a thing you should worry about.
Does the SNES and like the ROM have like ROM expansion? Like, do you find that a lot in ROM hacking? Like expanding the ROM so that you can like make a lot of modifications?
I think you
Is that
have
not common?
I think the editor does that for you automatically when you first edit. But I could be wrong.
Oh, okay.
We have.
I remember
since-
like back in the day, there was like some games would work on just like the S2D SNES, but not on the EverDrive, you know, because of different limits and stuff. But
Oh my
maybe
god.
now everyone's
Barb in
on
chat
Xbox.
right now.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I saw the guy who asked if Barb can actually beat these levels. Barb is like one of the greatest Mario players out there. Like he's played so many hacks at this point. He's so
Yeah,
good.
I
And now
agree.
because he makes them too. And same thing with Panga. They're both incredibly good at playing them blind. Much better than me, I think. Because they, like I talked about, they have all the knowledge of why these things happen, not just it's going to happen, but why it's going to happen. So.
And I mentioned this earlier, but I'll say it again because it needs repeating, that if you haven't watched the run before this, the commentary is really good, where Barb does give you insight from his point of view and his perspective. Doesn't mention if he's actually beat all levels, but yes, he has at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
many times. Like if Barb wanted to, if he wanted to have world records in Super Mario World instead of making Mario World games, he'd have no problem doing that. He could definitely compete with anybody else if that's what he wanted to do. You know.
He's got this like natural
thankfully
way.
for us, he'd rather make games, baby.
Right? Thank you.
Yeah.
And like, I have to say, he's got this like natural way of like how he perceives and how he like plays it. Like I've seen him like play a level and he's like, why is that shell there? But he still beat the level in like 3 minutes. Right? It's like 2 minutes and he's on to the next one. It's just like so fast.
Yeah, very
Well,
good.
Got
I
that
think
natural.
That highlights an important point too, that you don't necessarily need to be like a speedrunner to attempt these or try these games. A lot of this is perseverance and, keep going at it, right?
All of it is that. Yeah. No, like, and I think that's the thing. If you look at any of the guys that are really capable of competing for these high times now, the reason why is because they've played so much of these games at this point, and they practice these specific ones so much. And it's also why you see, like, if you go through Kaizo leaderboards, you're gonna see a bunch of different names and not one, because it's, you know, they are still game-specific speedruns and game-specific tricks and game-specific things you need to learn, even though they're all variations of Mario.
Yeah, and don't let that discourage anyone, right? Anyone can approach, and as long as you put in the time, it's not like you watch these runs and it's like, oh, I can't get this good. It'll take me 3 years. It's like, not even close, man. It'll take 5 months maybe. You work really hard.
Yeah.
Dram, Panga, this brings up an interesting question. When you're creating a level, or when you've created Dram World, were you specifically trying to challenge yourself, or are you just trying to find something that plays well? Like, what's the purpose as you're trying to create through a level?
In terms of the level, like difficulty, I more want to find difficulty that's fun for players, not for myself. But I do try to challenge myself in terms of the level design. So I know that most people don't like spending multiple hours on one level. Some people might. I mean, I do. But if I can find a good balance between fairness and difficulty, then that's what I do, and that's what I've been trying to do ever since I made Dram World.
Here, my puppy's going off in the background again. Mitch, you know, you've created an SMB3 ROM hack, and you've done levels before. Is that a similar approach you take, or are you trying to find ways to push yourself in new directions?
I take a similar approach, but I also try and push something where, like, I've never done something like this before, and then I want the player to play. So my levels definitely don't hit as hard as some of these creators, because they have that equal fairness and like tricks to it. I always end up putting some weird thing in my level that's like, you've probably never done it before, but it's like it could be like awkward. So I definitely don't hit as hard like that. Like, these guys it's just so good. But I try and influence the way I make levels.
This is gonna sound weird, but no one person knows everything about SMW. But there's no one person that knows anything as well about SMB3 as Mitch does. Does that make sense? He knows more than all of us out there. Everybody. He has all the knowledge in SMB3 that exists. So sometimes he cranks something out that nobody even gets or would ever think about. You know what I mean? But to him, he's like, oh yeah, I knew this because I did it in 2015 in a random strat I was pulling off, trying to save 2 seconds. It didn't work, but you know, I remember it.
Well, it's kind of like how Panga said, you know, he did Dram's Butthole, the revised version, in an hour and a half, and it still took other runners 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, that's the way it is, I guess.
Yeah.
So we're getting towards the end of this run, and if you're just watching this for the first time ever, you might not get the full experience of what's happening. But maybe Mitch, can you walk us through a little bit about what we're doing here?
Just as I say that they have to earn it, like they have to play it to. No, so essentially, like this last level is kind of like pick your own path to go through 4 sections, and it takes you to the last boss. But if you find enough secrets and do enough of the in-game, you know, little tricks and stuff, you can actually find an alternate exit that takes you to King Bowser, and this is the category where we will be fighting Bowser, and you know, I don't want to spoil anything, of course, so that's just essentially what's going on here. Sorry, I can't say much.
No, I'm curious. Like, you know, Pooh, when you were first playing through this, I mean, there's multiple ways to get through this. Did you want to go through every door at this point?
Yeah. So that was one of the first things I did when I first beat the game, was went back and did every door, which took a little while. You got to remember which one you did and whatnot. But yeah, that was one of the things. But then also when we were all first learning the game, it was a thing where it was like, all right, which route's the fastest? And so we were like timing different doors in different rooms, and then eventually we realized that, like, with very few exceptions, they're all pretty much the same.
That is the most insane thing that I think
relatively
Barb
the
did.
same. So it's actually like a really fun thing, because pretty much everyone who speedruns this game does different sets of doors.
That's right. That's right. Like, even during my run here, like Barb was saying, like, I do one of the sections that nobody else does, but he likes that section. And then there was another section where it was like only me and I think Laser, or no, Panga, you did this section with me, right? You did that one.
Yeah, I do this
well.
room. I remember this one.
Yeah.
This room, yeah, I don't do this room.
Who does the Thwomp room? And
I do the
water?
one,
No.
the fireball one you did. I do the dolphin statue, which it's literally my least favorite room out of all these, but it's so easy. Yeah, it's like free, and which is funny because I'd probably die in that room more than any of the other ones because I never do
And
it.
then you do the swamp
yeah.
one. Yeah.
But you do this room, which I'm glad you do. The thing is, the swamp one is like the one of the rooms that is definitely faster. But this room is the coolest room out of all of them. So it's like
I found this one to be like really easy, but then a lot of people were saying this one was hard. But I did not find the dolphin one easy. No way.
no,
Get
this
that
one,
outta
this
here.
room's just so cool though. Like I loved this. I love that you do this room because it's very, very.
This
very
shell
cool,
jump,
yeah.
oh, that's so
Yeah, this
cool how
shell
it
jump's
floats
so
and then you
cool.
reuse it. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Watching it kind of breaks the brain. Yeah, I know you think it might be a little bit easier, Mitch, but it just looks confusing. But it's so perfectly set up. It just it looks like everything clicks in it.
Yeah, and talking about those Kaizo tropes now, a few more Kaizo games now are actually kind of using the pick whatever you want final level situation, and I love that. I think that's like such a good thing to add into. So you're seeing these games now add more and more of their own tropes, and kind of adding to the overall Kaizo lore that started with Kaizo 1, that Panga cemented with Dram, and now just kind of continues on.
Mitch, how do you hit the turtle shell twice here? I've seen that question come up a couple times, and I'm curious.
That is a non-vanilla thing. That's something that he intentionally put in for that specific trick. And I mean, I can't remember the exact names. Cooper would know, but I mean, there's some hacks out there that revolve around using that concept, but like to an insane amount. I mean, they have the hacks where there's a number beside the shell, right? And that number represents how many times you can bounce on the shell before it becomes a dead shell. And I think Cooper could tell a little bit more about that.
Yeah, there's tons of hacks now. Super Chefy World 2 was one of the first ones I saw that did that. But it has infinite bounce shells and all sorts of different things. I mean, like I said, now like and Panga would probably say this better than me, but it definitely feels like now, despite being on a 16-bit game, Mario World creators are pretty much only limited by their imagination and who they can get a hold of to help them out. You know. Yeah.
I mean, it almost feels like you're making an entirely different game that's not Super Mario World. Like, that's how advanced it's gotten. Like, you can add double jumps, you could add, like, even more power-ups if you want. You can pretty much add anything.
You can pick things up like Mario 2 now. Like, you can, there's just whatever your heart desires.
Because it's on screen right now, I don't think we can get away without talking about Bowser.
So good.
This seems so challenging, Mitch. What's going on with this fight? It looks tough.
So he's got like his normal phases. When you first start the battle, he
almost one-shot him.
I used to have it down to like knowing the first letter of what he's doing and like have a phrase of what I say to know, and like that was a long time ago. But like he'll jump, he'll throw, he'll spit, right, and then he'll stomp, right? So he's got that, and then after you hit him 2 times, he pops out of that phase, and then I think he adds in 2 more things, Cougar, doesn't he? 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think every phase he adds
Right,
more,
so, like-
regardless, he has more attacks, and that's why his shell's changing. Once his phase goes in, he adds more attacks. And
But
then
like
he
what I'm
basically
saying
just
is like that
protects his
fire
turn.
attack, he
Yeah.
can't do that on the first go.
Yeah.
Like when you first enter, he can't do that, right?
Yeah.
But now his shell changes to yellow. Now he can add ice physics, a flame wall, and oh my god, yeah, it's just
How long
Yeah,
did your first Bowser take you, Mitch, the first time you played him?
Actually, it took all of us pretty close to the same amount of time. This was one of the things that we were talking about that we came together as a community and did with Glitch Cat, Panga, and stuff. And we all did this together, and it took us 3 hours, like 3.5 hours for our first Bowser.
Yeah, it took a while. I forget the exact amount.
Yeah, one of the
Close to that.
things that I remember Barb talking about this was he wanted to do was you kind of like a lot of the Bowser fights are like specifically like Bowser and Kaizo 3. You're not spending a lot of time actually attacking Bowser, whereas in this fight you're on the offensive a good amount. You're not having to just play defense the whole time because you're getting a lot of weapons to attack him with. And what I noticed for a lot of people's first play is that eventually like it'd line up where you'd get the shell attack the first time for every phase, and like that gave you those extra hits and kind of allowed you to get out in a quick way. So eventually this Bowser almost just shows mercy on you after you've been playing him for 2 or 3 hours.
Mitch, you said you had some letters. Are there some set attacks or patterns that this Bowser does?
Well, yeah, at first in the first phase, he'll always
first phase,
stomp. Yeah, he'll always stomp, spit, shoot or shell or whatever. There's a whole
But he
bunch
can
of
do them in
S
any
words.
order. Yeah, he can
Exactly.
do them
got
in
it,
any
got it.
order.
Any
Yeah,
order.
But
so
they
there's
doesn't look like that
four-
when you first see the game. So.
Yeah, so like he starts with only 4 attacks, and he just rotates between those 4 attacks, and then you get walls, like the walls right here.
Got
And one thing to note about the wall is if you get a 5 wall and you're not on top of them, you're pretty much dead. Yeah, and so each phase he starts adding in more attacks, which is twofold thing because A, you're getting less weapons with his attacks because you're getting less shells and to pop out, and B, you're just adding in more attacks is obviously going to be more to remember. It's just going to make it more difficult. But this Bowser is like I could just play this Bowser all day. Like I'd
All the
never get
time.
tired of fighting this boss.
No, God no.
Yeah.
And then I'm glad. So now that you know that about Bowser, the thing of why Barb had changed and why I was asking him in the run, like being a little baby about it, is that if you attack Bowser at a very specific moment during that first phase where he only has the 4 attacks, you can keep him in that 4 attack phase, and that's what he had fixed from version 1 to the next phase. Because Bowser would be so easy. You could beat Bowser and never die like 50 times in a row if you just concentrate on the first few attacks that he did, and he stays in that phase and you just beat him. So I am glad he changed it. It's so much better this way.
Yeah, it was I think it was kind of funny because there was a big debate on it, but it just I think it came down to this Bowser's so fun. It's so fun doing it correctly that
it definitely ruined it.
Yeah, it's like one of those rare things where he took it out because in my experience with Barb, he's not going to just change something because the speedrunner found a better way to do it. But this fight is so good that it really would have been a shame if we were just kind of seeing just the first phase every time. It would have,
I can ask you.
All we would need is Pooh Bear to make fun of it, and then Grand Poo 3 Bowser is just unbeatable.
No, he's so good. I learned my lesson. I'm not questioning anybody's cape skills ever again if I'm going to be playing their game. I learned my lesson.
I do want to ask you about that, Pooh, because I don't know if you've played through Kaizo Mario World 3, but, I hear a lot of speedrunners just flat out never want to play that fight ever again. But this one seems like people seem to really enjoy getting back into this, but is there something, what's some of the differences there?
Well, I think the main difference is like I was saying, you're not just playing defense, whereas a lot in like Kaizo Mario Brothers 3. And don't get me wrong, that Bowser's super fun as well. If I didn't have to play the regular base game, I'd play that Bowser a lot too. You see Mitch just slay it, and then go to just the coolest cherry on top on this game, the escape right here.
So anyone in chat who can't hear this has got the Super Metroid escape music to it, so it's really capturing the whole.
So perfect.
Right, you just spent 40 hours trying to escape from the room, then you have to fight, the King of the Koopas, right? Then you beat him, and you're like, oh, finally, nope, not done yet. And then there's some screen wrap weird thing here that was left in with it already passed with the thwomp, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes that thwomp would come down, so it's really cool. A little cool key toss. That's so cool, man.
Yeah, this is just such a cool moment, and you get a little saber kill the animals at the end. But yeah, I think just the way that boss sets up and that it's not unfair. It doesn't feel unfair RNG. Everything feels fair. Like every attack you can dodge yourself. You know what I mean? But it's just you saved Yoshi. I forgot. It's just a great fight, man. I don't know. It's just one of those rare things that is just super perfect. Every time you win, you feel awesome, and every time you lose, you never feel like it was unfair. You feel like it was your fault, and that's very, very hard to do in a boss with random attacks. But I mean, that's the boss does it. Yeah.
It's still one of my favorite moments in any game, watching the escape, because you just this ridiculous Bowser, and then you've got
Not
Super
over
Metroid
yet.
style, Had to have been a relief, Mitch, actually getting through that after an hour, I'm guessing.
I did. That was a very big weight lifted off my shoulder, and then the run went well, so I feel like we all did. It was good.
What a game. And Barb, thanks for being there in the chat, answering some of those questions as well, helping out and getting through this. And a big thank you to all of you here. One of the things that I think I don't want to forget and don't miss is that all of this has been done in the name of charity. Pooh, I think since your Dram World 1, you've been donating per death for all of these runs, and it's helped raise a ton of money for a really important cause. So it seems like important to you.
Fun. Yeah, I'm not the only one that's done. That's pretty much I think every single Kaizo run since then.
It's like the
has done
Kaizo
that.
stick,
Yeah.
right?
It's a two-way thing too, because not only is it good for the world, but it also makes your deaths feel fun, instead of making you look bad on them. So yeah, I mean, I've been a part of that. I mean, even when Oats and Ghost did his Super Metroid run, he did that. So and I got that idea from Boshi players, so it's not, definitely didn't invent that or anything, but yeah, and we all like to get together, and like usually the couch will donate for each death too, and it's just that's a really fun part of the the community. And I think charity's been an important part of what we've all what the Kaizo community's been all about anyway.
It actually. Oh, go ahead, Pooh.
No, I mean, like, I couldn't do this without Penga. And you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be where I'm at without Penga. And he wouldn't be without Dram. And we wouldn't be where we're at now without Barb and all these things. Like, so I think because we're so reliant on each other as a community, it makes helping's like ingrained in what we do. Or maybe that's just how I think about it, but yeah.
No, it is true, because
Yeah.
I come from the other side. I come from Mario 3, and we don't have that. We don't have that big sort of thing from Mario 3. So, no, that is true. From the outside, that is what it looks like.
Yeah, we're a very friendly community. We
It,
thrive off
Mario
each
3 is
other.
like, oh, you don't have
Yeah.
sub 53? Don't talk to me. Yeah.
well, it actually segues perfectly. We're going to do a couple of quick plugs here for where we can find you all and everything. But Mitch, I do want to give a shout out, because speaking of charity, you're doing a charity thing here in just a few days. So
Yeah,
where can people
for
find
Mario
you
Day.
and help do getting all this stuff? Where can we find you on the? Where can we find you?
You want the? Oh, it'll be twitch.tv/MitchFlowerPower, my normal Twitch page, and raising money with the Starlight Children's Foundation, which is incredible, helping seriously ill kids in hospitals. And depending on how much money we raise, we can get a video game cabinet in a hospital of my choice, which obviously I'm gonna pick one that doesn't have one. And yeah, it comes like, dude, it's crazy, these cabinets, man. They come with like a TV and like a preloaded Switch with like all these games. Holy crap, we gotta get one. So we're doing that on Mario Day, which is Wednesday, March 10th.
Big day for Mario, folks. March
Big
10th.
day, man. We can do it.
Penga, do you ever do any of your level design stuff or anything like that on stream? Can people watch, or is this something where can people find you?
I usually do Mario Maker level design on stream, although I've been kind of burnt down on making levels in general, so I haven't done it in a while. But if you ever are interested, you can find me at twitch.tv/PNGPinga, which is above my head. There is another A right after the G. People forget that. And then, yeah, I also have a YouTube where I post highlights too. Same thing.
And finally, Pooh, where can people find you at? Where can they see all your stuff?
I'm Grant Pooh Bear. You can just type it in anywhere. I'm sure something will pop up. Something will pop up. Yeah. And follow Barb, follow Dram, Just Cook. There's so many incredible creators. There's no way we could say them all. Like Space Pig out there is making a ROM hack, and I'm so excited for what he's doing now. He's been a Mario Maker creator that I've just loved for years, and
This is gonna be insane. His hack.
yeah, it's gonna be so. I think his gonna be so good. Track In is making a hack or a game this year. There's so many incredible games that are coming out and that have already came out in 2021. That it's a really, really fun time to be a fan-made game fan. Is that how
Honestly, though, part of me feels like there's
fan?
so many coming out. We're getting like the saturated market of like ROM hacks right now. It's like we're gonna have
like,
the crash of 2022, right? Like
it's kind of funny, yeah, because like a few years ago, we would play any game that came out. Like, oh, a new Kaizo game got released, we'll play it. Doesn't matter what it is. And now, because it's getting so saturated and the quality's getting so high, it's like now we're almost getting like snooty about it. You know what I mean? Like, now
it has hit a certain level where it's like, oh, there's no custom. Yeah. I'm not playing.
Yeah. It's like, that one was good, but not great. I don't know if it's worth my time. Like,
And to tie that whole thing in together, coming back to an earlier thing, you can go try these things out. You can go participate. You can get involved if you want to. That's the awesome and great thing about this whole thing. So, honestly, I really appreciate getting you all together and talking Mario and talking Kaizo and all this kind of stuff. It's really, as a fan and have been a fan for so many years, it's awesome to hear the insight and kind of some of the things behind the scenes. So, thank you all for being here. I really do appreciate it. I can't thank you enough. And
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, that was fun.
Thanks, guys. And my final thank you will go to you, the audience. Thank you so much for being here. For if you're watching it live, if you're watching it on YouTube, these things, we don't get to do this without you. So thank you so much for making this happen. Games Done Classic, where we're looking back at all of these classic moments, happens about once a month. It kind of changes around, but it'll always be on a Sunday. So if you're at all interested in this stuff, we've got some really fun ones coming up in the next couple months. So I promise you, you're going to want to catch some of these. I'm sure some of these are the moments that have inspired you to watch and to get into speedrunning and to try these things and support charity and do all that kind of stuff for yourself. So thank you so much for taking the time. We do have our next episode is going to be April 4th, 2021. I can't say exactly what it is yet. I promise you'll want to see it. It'll be a good one, I promise. So April 4th, if you're around, coming out, we'll visit another classic moment. As for that, hope you all have a good rest of your evening. See you later. Bye-bye. Adios. Take care. See you later. Bye-bye.